Thank you so much. Good evening. This is a select board meeting for August 10th, 2021 in the French conference room. We're going to go right into our agenda tonight. And the first item is public input on non-agenda items. Anybody here would like to speak to a non-agenda item? Not seeing anybody, we'll go on to our second item, which is the approval of board minutes from two dates, July 6, 2021 and July 20, 2021. Comments, board, corrections? Motion?
For which one?
July 6th and July 20. You have any comments, Mark?
I have one comment on the second one. One point, my name is spelled R-A-T-E-R instead of R-A-T-N-E-R. But also the only other note that I have is in that one, or one of the, it says that we will discuss the lake warden at the first meeting in August. Okay. And it's not on the agenda tonight, so.
No, that's because we moved it, but.
Okay, just want to make sure that we.
That was what we did say during the meeting, though.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to move for either both of those, or one, or what corrections you'd like to have placed?
Any other corrections? I'll make a motion.
Oh,
because my computer's not totally okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the select board minutes from July 6, 2021 and July 20th, 2021.
Second.
Motion made, second. Discussion. Not hearing any. All those in favor? Sophie? 5-0, thank you. That's right. On the consent agenda tonight, we have three items, the first of which is related to two appointments. In that regard, is the planning board reappointments, appointments to Andrew Smith, 2 regular member, and Pat Chen, 2 alternate member. This was occasioned because of our Mr. Siegel winning an election here and not being on the planning board. In addition to that, there's a zoning board changes, reappointments of these individuals who are Sam Smith, regular board member, John Kuhl, regular board member, Deborah Chapman, regular member, Tia Anderson, alternate member, and Steve Beveridge, alternate member. Item 2 on the consent agenda is the approval of a new Vittler license for Lucky Betty's at 46 Elm Street, who has new owners. And the third one is the approval of renewal Vittler and lodging licenses for the Birchwood Inn, Elms of Camden, and Mariners Restaurant. Are there any objections to the items on the consent agenda? Not hearing out, they are hereby adopted. And if you'd like, I can you can chat when we get to your liquor license, or you can come up now. That's up to you. Right? It's your option.
Are you the Lucky Betty
They
people?
are. They are Lucky Betties.
Oh, good. I really wanted to hear about it because I said, oh, something new. So
Actually, you know what? The next item on the agenda is the public hearing for Lucky
liquor
Betty.
license.
And since you are here, and you will, hopefully you will say something just for the fun of it, the purpose of public hearing is for us to, for the select board to solicit information from the public on the matter at hand. In this case, it's the Class 10 lounge liquor license. We request anybody, I will ask anybody in the public who wants to speak to this item may do so. We've asked that they limit their comments to 3 minutes and be polite, courteous, and direct your questions through me. Once the entire anybody from the public has spoken, I will close the public portion of this hearing and revert to select board deliberation. There will be no more input from the public at that point unless the select board member has a question of anybody who's spoken during the public portion. So with that, public, we'd love to hear from you. Please. Yeah, it's. Why not?
Oh, yeah.
it's a whole
You
lot.
came. You did to make it count.
It's a whole lot better than sitting up here. So
Yeah, trust. Please introduce yourself.
So my name is Dava Dupree, and when it used to be called Betty Forever, and I was the bartender there, and now I'm taking it over and reopening it myself, and I will be calling it Lucky Betty's, and doing basically the same thing that Molly did, which is only being open a few days a week, and
Which days? People. So some people might tune in and they would be interested to know when you're open.
so
And
right now it will be.
Talk about the location as well, because I think a lot of people don't realize where it is.
Right, so it's 46 Elm, it's the building right where the smoothie shack is. It's an old garage, and now it's got a bar and a kitchen and the whole shebang, so.
And scheduled to open?
Hopefully, Sunday, September 19th.
Wow, it's close.
Okay.
It's all ready,
Oh.
so it's just getting all the I have the health inspection and everything's been inspected, just this is the last step for that.
What kind of menu? Tell us about,
So it'll be kind of hearty snacks, kind of tapas-sized things, just easy kind of comfort food.
Perfect.
what hours?
Somewhere between 2 and 11 on Sundays and Tuesdays for now, and then maybe moving to Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, because formerly we were open Sundays and Mondays because everything was closed.
Yeah.
Now things are also closed on Tuesdays.
Tuesdays, yeah.
So, I mean, I think everything's
Yep,
closed
yep,
on
yep,
Tuesdays.
Yep, absolutely.
Feels like it, feels like it's.
So I'll be open.
Cool.
Yeah,
Congratulations, this is very cool.
thank you.
Lucky Betty.
Yeah.
All right. Lucky us.
Lucky's a nickname of mine from New York. I lived in New York before I came here. I went to high school here, but I moved back. And then Betty's was the old name, so
Welcome back. We need more places like that.
thank you.
Good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you
for
so
coming.
much.
With that, I'll close the public hearing portion, since there's nobody else here to speak to it, and then revert to select board decision. Marco?
I will make a motion that we approve the new liquor license for Lucky Betty's at 46 Elm Street for a Class 10 lounge liquor license.
I second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Allison?
I just have the same comment that I've had before, which is the questions that we're asking on these applications seem like, I'm just wondering how much of this is by the ordinance and how much of it is, because I just think it's really inappropriate that we're asking, are you an illegal alien? A lot of questions about convictions of things, and it's mostly the are you an illegal alien that really jumps out to me, and I would really like to get that off of there as soon as possible.
Yeah, I have no idea, Audra, what the legal ramifications are. We can investigate that for sure. I think there's a few others on there I question.
Yeah, I've
always questioned why we ask people how much money they're making.
oh, right, on the other ones, it's like,
I'm sorry, it's none of our business, you know. It's nice to know, but not needed to know. So I think there's a few things we could investigate. I would agree.
okay.
Okay, that's our problem, not yours, Lucky Betty. Okay, fine. Motion made and second. Any other comments? All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you and good luck.
Welcome.
Dishonorably discharged from the military, I mean, I don't know, like,
Thank you, good luck.
thank you, Dava.
The next, we have, let's see, 1, 3, 4, 5, whatever action items.
Camden and Mariners.
No. First action item is review, actually, we have to set a public hearing date for September 7th, or whatever date we choose, for two amendments. Amend Article 10, Performance Standards, Part 2, Section 4, off-street parking and loading standards. Item 2 is the amend Article 9, Open Space Zoning, Section 2, Applicability, Section 3, General Standards 1 within the rural R1 district, within the rural R2 district, and within the coastal CR residential zone. This, again, we're proposing to set the hearing for, the date was September 2nd. It probably makes sense. That's the last date we can set it for, because one of the issues I would say it makes sense, because we may be without two select board members on the 24th, because Mark's out of town and Sophie's out of town also. So I would prefer to have a hearing like this on two items that may be going to ballot to have a full board.
Aren't we going to by then have a hybrid system set up so that they could participate?
Possibly. Well, there's problems with their schedules. They're not going to be remote either.
I will be remote on the 24th. Yeah, I'll be remote on the 24th.
It's a possibility. We don't know that. But I'm just saying,
There's definitely a way to do it.
well, but my point is, I still think we should look to a full board. I mean, we don't have to, but I think we should look at a full board on the 7th of September.
Yeah, even if we have a hybrid system, I have a social engagement prior to even running, so I would.
Oh, no,
be
I'm
able
fine.
to join. I would, but this time it's really,
Right.
yeah.
I don't think it's a big deal that people often miss meetings sometimes. I'm just making a point about,
No, that's a good point. I think it depends on how it turns out. I thought Mark might not be available on the 24th also, even remotely, but if he is, it's good. If we don't have to do something on the 24th, we won't, because they're not here. But if we do, we have stuff stacking up for the 24th. So, all right. So
can be printed on the ballot 5-0 instead of,
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I just think that's nice.
it's nice for people to be able to have a chance to know what the.
I agree. If it says 401, they won't know what that means, one absent, that kind of thing. But again, we have, I believe September, correct me if I'm wrong, Audra, September 7th is the last date that we can approve anything to go to ballot in November.
That's right. That's the last, unless you have a special select board meeting.
Understood,
Yes.
but we haven't planned that yet.
Right.
So if I could, I'd like to get a motion for the 7th.
You need the motion to do a public hearing?
She's so moved.
I said so moved. Hopefully that's good enough.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, good. Any discussion on that one? No, all those in favor?
Good compromise?
5-0.
One thing I did want to mention, I've sat through the planning board meetings on both of these articles, and they both make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And are really helpful and useful for the town moving forward.
Right. No, I'd agree, and I think the wording is there. I'll review that, and if we have to make, if any changes are desired, we can make them on the 7th. And again, the public may have comments similarly.
I mean, I do think it's important that we clarify, with the planning board conversation, there was quite an emphasis on Sagamore Farm, and I think that was confusing to some people, because especially since it came right on the heels of us having a select board workshop where we said, Sagamore really isn't, we don't have the bandwidth to be dealing with that, and then.
As a priority.
Right, and then it comes out in the paper that we're pushing a zoning ordinance through in large part, like, to be accommodating to Sagamore, but
Not only.
I think, that's how some of the conversation went, but there are very good reasons for that change totally independently of Sagamore. So, I mean, I'm not supportive of developing Sagamore Farm at this point, but I can see, I think we should, that's going to be a little confusing to people because of the way some of the communication has happened before.
Well, we should certainly address it. I agree. With that, motion made and seconded. I already asked for approval. We already did it. The second item is the approval to use the public landing for an American Legion community event. That will be on September 17th. I can't get the date right. September 17th. And Jeff, would you like to speak to this one, please?
If I could, thank you.
AC?
Good evening, Jeff Superforth, Camden resident, and speaking on behalf of the War Memorial Post 30, American Legion. September 17th is National POW MIA Remembrance Day. A lot of folks don't realize probably, but there are still 13 men missing, unaccounted for, from Knox County. So we would like to hold our, we usually go over to the Village Green by the War Memorial, have a short ceremony there and read off those names. But this year we're also having the Wreaths Across America mobile exhibit and hoping to set up, because it is a fairly large footprint that it takes. But we'd like to put them down at the public landing, because I think that's probably the best place for public access, because it is obviously open to the public. This is just not a veterans event. If you've never been inside that mobile exhibit, it's a fantastic exhibit. It just doesn't deal with POWs, MAAs, but it has a lot to do about the program Wreaths Across America, which is obviously a huge program. So basically that's it in a nutshell. We're hoping for approval to have that down there, and again, it's open to the public. So
What's the schedule for it now?
we're looking hours-wise of 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We will be down there as well, because we'll have a table down there to staff for the Legion. We're hoping, obviously, veterans come in, but it doesn't have to be veterans. It can be, we're also looking, for Blue Star parents, Gold Star parents, Hope to see some Vietnam veterans there. We do have some things to hand out to people that come. So, yes, sir.
Questions, Board? Mark, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've looked at the pictures you have of the museum and the packet here. It looks terrific. It looks like something very worthwhile for anybody to go see.
Yes, yeah.
And
thank you.
so looking forward to it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, for all that you've done organizing this stuff over the years. Haven't made it every year to the events on the Village Green, but every time I've gone, I've said, I need to remember to do this every time, because it really is nicely done and meaningful, and I know it takes a lot of work, and
Well,
it's
appreciated.
appreciated.
You know, that's what we're here for, to do things for that in the community, because it's a match, you folks are here to support us, we're here to support you, so.
Thanks, Jeff. And more importantly, thanks for coming and describing this, because it's a great event.
Thank you.
I'm going to put it on my calendar right now so I don't forget, actually.
Ready for motion? I would like to make a motion to approve the use of the public landing for American Legion Community Event, National POW MIA Remembrance Day.
I second.
Motion made and second. Any comments? Discussion? All's in favor? 5-0. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, appreciate it. And just, if I can, just for another couple minutes.
Yeah, please.
I'm not sure if everyone's been seeing the articles in the Village Soup about the Legion baseball team. Who knew that there was a Legion baseball team? This is the first year that it's an under-17 team, and the students are drawn from Camden, Rockland, Madomic Valley High Schools. They just finished up their regular season. Like I said, they're under 17-year-old students. They went 15-3 on the year, and this Thursday evening, 7 o'clock up in Bangor, they start the state tourneys. So it's a wonderful group of kids, let me tell you. So just wanted to let you folks know that, okay?
Nice
Appreciate
shout out.
it.
Thank you for the shout out. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Next item is the appointment of Midco Solid Waste Corporation Executive Board Director. The reason why this is labeled this way, because this has been my term to date. My term officially expired on June 30th of 2021. So this seat will be from July. We're a little late here. July 1st of 2021 to June 30th, 2024. And I didn't plug any name because I want the board to be free to make decisions and volunteer.
It's not the executive board, it's called the board of directors, is my only comment.
You're right,
Not to be confused with the executive committee, which
which is different.
we're doing
That's
I think
correct.
we killed.
It's correct.
I think we really need Bob, because he's also the chair of Midco Solid Waste. And hopefully somebody else will get a chance to take a turn at some point, because I don't think Bob is especially attached to doing it forever and ever. But he's really helpful on the board, and we need his leadership. So I would nominate Bob as our representative.
I'll second that. No,
Motion made.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Bob Falciani as the Executive Board Director for Midco Solid Waste,
Give him the right title.
term expiring in 2024.
Want to fix the term?
I thought that's what I did, but
Well, she did it and you seconded
I
it.
thought it was a,
No,
I thought you were.
you did it a little more officially. I'll second your, but not the executive board, that's our
Midco, so, okay.
to the board of directors as our representative to the board of directors.
And by the way, Allison is already the second, just for all you don't know, she's the second representative, and her term expires, I think, in 23. Is that right? 22 or 23?
I've never been good at keeping track of
Yeah,
that
we're
stuff.
supposed to do that, and we obviously lost track of this one. And any discussion? I'll just make a comment. I think the board has come along. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
No. I've
Oh, I
watched
thought
the
you-
meetings. No, this is resting. This is the resting
I
position.
thought you were like this.
No, it's good. Watch again,
Yes.
Sophie. This is resting. It's very good. Midco Solid Waste.
Midco Solid Waste is
I'm with you all.
collectively come a long way, I think, in the last years for the effort of a lot of people, Allison, I really believe it. And our 4 towns represented it. It is better organized, and a lot of that goes to your credit for the financial side. I didn't think Allison was a financial expert until I watched her perform on Midco Solid Waste, and she turned around what was not a great representation for an annual audit report into something that was realistic. And now, indicative of that is we don't necessarily meet on a monthly basis anymore. We meet on a bi-monthly basis now.
So it's a,
To my dismay, I'm not supportive of
she likes to
that
keep
decision,
it
but we compromise.
You never know what can happen. But to that end, do you have a comment?
Question, last year you hired a new director of
Yes.
and how's that going? How's
Thank you for asking, Mark.
Good question. Allison, you want to hit that one?
I would love to. I feel personally really proud of Midco Solid Waste right now. We have the most extensive recycling program of any community in the area in terms of the number of different materials that we accept. And Mike Martunas, the new manager, he's like really embraced all the things that we already do, and he's come up with a lot of things that he wants to expand as well. And so we've started this. He got a grant from the DEP to start this regeneration project, which is basically expanded repurposing. He's taking lawnmowers from the scrap metal, fixing them, making them available to the public. He's done a lot of really cool stuff. And so I think we're really lucky to have him. He also has a really good knowledge of hydrology. He managed some of the environmental programs at Dragon Cement with their quarries. And so that's the big problem that we have here that's really different from any other transfer station is we have these 2 quarries that are very, very deep, like 300 feet. Both of them are filled with, at least partially with trash. And so managing the water and how it moves through there in a way that doesn't contaminate the groundwater is really our biggest responsibility that we kind of have as a community, and he understands that really well. So there's actually a lot to be excited about over there.
It really is. It's a different environment out there today, and Mike Martunas has had a lot to do with that.
okay. Rumor has it that the solid waste facility will soon be accepting credit cards?
Yes, that is in the budget. We've had a lot of the staff there has retired, and not just because they've gotten to the end of their working career. There's been quite a bit of turnover and trying to get everybody up to speed in this pretty difficult recruitment environment, obviously. So
There were signs out there that we need help. We're short-handed out there right now.
And actually, it's a good opportunity to say that working there is actually a pretty good job. And they're looking for people that can work in this regeneration shop where you're salvaging items and making them available to the public. And there's some cool stuff going on that may actually attract a more diverse workforce too. So encourage people to apply for that.
There are kind of trades to be learned there, and then it's really happy to train also. But
They're doing a lot of the welding in-house. It's taking a lot of bicycles, fixing bicycles and making those available to the public.
Small engine repair.
Lots of small engine repair, yeah. So.
No, it's been very exciting. So with all that, I must go for a vote. All those in favor of me? 5-0. Thank you very much. So the next item on our agenda, we've been the approval of the rules of order. We took a shot at making some changes, and so I want to discuss it here with the board. Before we get into any detailed questions on some of the more meaty things, there are 2 kind of homework items in there that I just want to bring up front. One is, and because we discuss it every year and don't change it, but are we interested as a whole, and not individually, as a whole, that means everybody has to agree, to change the time from 6 to 6:30. It's just an open question. Does anybody have a preference? Mark?
I have to say I like 6:30 simply because I'm always, you can see me wandering, and it's a busy day for me, and usually Tuesdays, and I find that, I need that extra time.
Anybody else?
I would be with Mark in that.
Okay.
It helps me to have that buffer between the workday and then
No,
getting.
we will have this discussion, because people mention it to me once in a while, but you know what, it only takes, this is not one where we vote on it, because if one person is a hardship, we have to stay with what we have, and that's what we'll do, we'll stay with 6:30. The other one, and maybe, Allison, do you want to say something?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I kind of like 6:32, but I would be curious if there's somebody, it seems like there's a reason this keeps coming up. If there's, I'm definitely.
If it were my decision alone, it's not, I would do 6 o'clock.
Oh.
And that's, but again, that's just my opinion. I'm not adamant about it. I think it's better. I think when we have, and some of our meetings will always go, X hours, 3, sometimes 4, depending on what happens. You get into that 10 o'clock at night thing, that's when it gets a little difficult, 10:30 from my body. I wake up at midnight, but there's an odd time in there. So if I have my druthers, if I was alone, I would do it at 6.
I would prefer 6, just because the easier the earlier we start, the earlier we start.
It's just hard for me to get like with the kids and stuff, for Vinny to get home from work and be able to
That's-
not abandon
That's
him.
all we have to hear,
But,
Allison. Let's keep it at 6:30.
but
Let's keep it at 6:30. That's fine.
I also don't like being rushed at the end and having it be like, well, we can only meet for 2 hours, and having everybody be.
Nobody's going to say that.
So I can be flexible.
Okay,
We could
that's
take,
cool.
we could.
That's cool. That's
I-
cool. No, that's not the issue. It's not we got to do what we got to do. We can try to manage things and plan things, but what happens, happens. And then, we'll get to that in a second. The other one was just a question, because Janice brought it up really to me, was we talk about broadcasting on 1303. And for the last year or so, we haven't broadcast on 1303. We've received no feedback whatsoever from anybody ever, correct, Audra?
Correct. And I would say that, in everything that we've tried to do in terms of, updating the original update we did to the conference room when all that equipment was past its usable life, to decisions around meetings on Zoom to now trying a hybrid meeting system. Trying to incorporate the cable channel in that mix of everything that we're trying to do has always caused like another layer of complication.
That's true.
So,
Does 1303 complicate our AV strategies?
We had a whole discussion about this the other day.
Again, if we're not using it, it would be great to not have to send that feed, but we're just trying to figure out if it is something, if it's an appendix that can be removed. If it's not being used, it would certainly be great not to have to send that
I mean,
feed.
historically, it's been used by a lot of people, because there's a cadre of people who don't go
So I just got a
electronic.
message saying that it's too hard for people to hear you.
Hello, people. But the question is, people have used it because there's a cadre of people who don't go electronic, and we want to be sensitive to them. But I'm just wondering if last year's year of not using 1303 and never even having a comment about it suggests that, and I would lean more towards not having it if it simplifies our world of AV.
Right.
That would kind of be another straw on the camel's back.
Can I ask a question? At 1303, is that only available through Spectrum Cable?
Yes, it is a Spectrum cable station.
Because what I've seen is, through our town, we made the change away from Spectrum Cable to streaming TV. And I've seen, and I learned about it from friends that said you should try this. I would think that the cable business is starting to be just a delivery system for streaming, but the actual television channels are starting to move more and more towards streaming. I think that the future of that channel being available for most people is going to diminish greatly.
I'm not even suggesting the decision has to be made now. I just think we have to consider this, and I really like to hear if there's anything that benefits the operation if we don't have the cable. You're saying no. I'm hearing you saying no.
Well, let's back it up. It would be beneficial in terms of simplicity to not have that feed going in.
That's my point.
Yes. I mean, at this point, as we do the upgrade, and I won't go but 2 minutes into this, it's fine. It's great to hear that people aren't fighting for it, because my guess is sooner rather than later, we will just pull the plug and no one will notice.
So you feel it's inevitable.
It is inevitable.
Although
I think we should send the equipment back to them right this second.
No,
But
and,
it's like.
and to
I-
give it some context, the contract is from 1992,
Right.
so it hasn't really gotten a lot of attention.
And when we changed from when Spectrum changed everyone from channels within the, 1 through 10 to 1303,
We heard a
we
lot
lost a
about that.
lot of people.
That never found it again.
Exactly.
That was, they went on with their lives. And we did hear a lot then.
How long have we been available on YouTube?
When we did the upgrade, we
Okay,
switched
so-
over, yeah.
So, and do we have numbers on how many people are watching on YouTube?
It ranges from about 8 to about
Well, it varies.
100.
Yeah, it varies a lot.
Okay, so,
Some of them get like 400 views.
yeah, so.
Sometimes day after or days after, people go to YouTube.
Yeah, you can see.
That's a really good point. So like Bob is saying, sometimes it's after the fact viewership. And if, when we're broadcasting live on cable, people can't do that, so.
Well, there were the reruns.
Oh, yeah.
That's right, you could put the recording in.
When they taped it and put it on loop for
Yeah.
like a full
Right.
2 weeks, you got to see the same select board meeting over and
I
over
mean,
again.
what I'm hearing, Bob, is that there'll be a natural evolution for this to go bye-bye. I mean, for right now, as we are reconfiguring and putting a new system in here, it's not going to be a blockade, it's not going to get in the way of that, but as we move forward, and when Audra and I have discussed this,
Yeah.
there's a good chance that it will just
If it
quietly.
simplifies the system, and given the history of the last year, I would suggest we abandon it.
I mean, this kind of puts people on notice too. We've discussed it. If maybe there's some little thing that we haven't
Yep.
really considered.
Correct. We have a little time before.
Absolutely, and Allison, this
so-
is, you're spot on. I just love the idea of it. There's the camera, everybody gets to hear. No one who's watching 1303 have the opportunity then to chime in, which is perfect. And we have weeks, if not months, to
Right.
have people
Yeah.
provide feedback.
I mean, what's truly telltale is in the past, when we had 1303 down, I'm talking about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, people made comments and
Oh,
said,
yeah.
and it was at one time, they made a comment about the music wasn't
They
on
just used
when
that
they
as
turned
their-
on 1303 because they left it on in the background. But in the last year plus, yes, different changes, nobody, not one person has commented or complained.
I would think we can table it until we're getting ready to switch over to the new system. We haven't had any complaints by then, because people can see, if anybody watching sees this and it's important to them, they'll let us know. And if we don't hear about it, I think the availability of YouTube is so universal now. I think it's a better way for people to find it, easier, more available. And, what are the percentages of people that actually use Spectrum now for television? It's diminishing.
Okay.
So I think we just table and revisit and see if there's been anybody said, I have to have it. And if not, then we take it out.
Should the rules of order include it for now or not?
I don't think,
No, we should get rid of it.
I think we should delete it.
yeah, I don't think we need to have it there.
All right. Okay, now, those, I call those homework items. The rest, which I want to discuss, was really to take the old rules of order, which we handed out back when, and just try to make it a little bit more user-friendly, because there was some stuff that was in the old rules that, well, example was item B, which was talking about we posted notices in the post office, and et cetera, et cetera. This was, Janice helped correct this for us, this is what we actually do. So there's a lot like that in here, but there are also some organizational things about, how we, which I definitely do, how we generally plan a meeting, not execute it. It's nothing to do with how long a meeting lasts. It shouldn't be construed as that. If it does, that's wrong. It's really just trying to, and by the way, in parallel with that, we're soon, we discussed in the priorities meeting, we'll have a spreadsheet on a shared thing that will probably get you this week, Audra, that everybody certainly can comment on, but any one of us has something, rather than you forgetting it, just pop on to 365 and go to the shared document, put it on, and explain it a little bit so we can have everything that we don't, there's always been a danger, and I have a lot of stuff in this little book that I've listed that we haven't attacked yet, and we need to. There's things that we've talked about, public landing policies, blah, 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 all kinds of, it's a long list, and I want to get them on that spreadsheet so we can slot them in in future board meetings and not forget them, otherwise we're not doing our job, in my opinion.
Before we move on from
Yeah.
that, do we want to have something more robust in terms of the agenda setting, or is everybody comfortable with
Robust
this.
okay, good question. I don't know what more robust means, but.
Well, do we want to sort of specify that, we're, the town manager and the chair of the select board, at the very least, have an agenda-setting meeting, have an agenda that's published on X date of the week?
I'm fine, but that would be a good idea,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, okay.
I think we should generally put a paragraph in that says, and just as a suggestion, Audra, that an agenda-setting meeting no later than Wednesday morning the week before the agenda. I think that makes some sense. We used to try Tuesday, but it got tough. Wednesday before, and that, but I think it does state in here when the drop dead for establishing the actual agenda on, isn't it in here on Friday?
No.
No.
It's not, it should be. Then we should, and I thought that was in here, and my bad. Then that the agenda and packet will be published by end of day on Friday.
Yeah, we should add those.
Good.
That's
I'm
it.
not, yeah.
Go ahead, Allison.
I'm not sure if it needs to be in this document, but I think we should at least have a conversation about like resolution of disagreements. Because it does happen where things end up on the agenda or don't end up on the agenda. And it might just be as simple as to say, when we elect a chair, that's what, the chairperson ultimately decides, and we should all, kind of remember that right now and come up with a system for if you disagree, if there's a frustration about something not being on the agenda, then you can of course just talk to Bob, or like when there have been times when Bob and I have had a hard time.
We disagreed.
With a disagreement, and just to put it out there that, okay, well, the way we should do that is not to just call Audra 25 times a day.
Oh, no, that's true.
I've got a suggestion.
Okay.
So maybe we include a standing item on the agenda for agenda adjustments before you start
No.
the business part of the meeting, and that's
No,
where
no,
somebody
no,
can.
I won't approve
Or
that.
Bring up an item
or
and then-
future agenda requests.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
Sure.
fine. But I'm not, what you just said, I heard was, let's leave the agenda open to at the beginning of a meeting, and you can't do that because you don't have the packet to support it. But you could have an item up front that says, request for, but if a
Or like at
person.
the end of the meeting where we could say if there are certain things that are like we haven't been able to agree whether it's on the agenda or not, that would be the time to say, you know what, I really want the lake, so enough is enough with the lake warden not being on the agenda, or who knows, I'm not saying that's an issue, but.
So let me propose something different. We could have an item that says that the issues log is reviewed as part of the standing agenda. And that's where we can see if we've tabled an item, if somebody has put an item on the issues log that has not gotten the attention of the board, and decide at the beginning of the meeting, okay, we'll put that next meeting or.
No.
But we
No.
can't
No,
act on an item
we can't.
that day.
We have to, and believe me, I've been through this too many times. You have to be able to take from that stable of information something that intended, but I don't believe the chair has the right to say that will never be on an agenda. That's wrong. So I'm not,
Yeah.
no, I don't.
It's not like a huge issue, it's just
No,
to
I
talk
get
about
it. I get it.
in advance. Like there are some times when there have been, I think mostly we are saying that the chair does get to decide
True. No, I haven't.
that if there is
I haven't
because you
had-
have to be able to move all the pieces and say, okay, this is what
Right.
we.
And I mean, and certain times it's not even a matter of Bob or whoever not wanting to put an item on the agenda. It could be miscommunicated. It could
True.
fall through the gaps. There's like a million things that could happen.
True. But I expect the board members to communicate that with us and raise the priority of something they think is really important for the next few meetings or not. So we understand the rationale for it. And, like the lake thing, we do need to discuss that. And the only reason we didn't have it tonight was because you all had asked for a certain person to come to that meeting, can't make it till the 24th. So that's the only reason it wasn't here. But we do understand it's a priority and try to, we need to get everything on that list in.
Yes.
It's not on the list just for fun.
No.
It needs to be slotted into a select board meeting. I get it. All we're trying to do is slot them in the right sequence. That's it. You know, I don't want to be in a position where I don't want to talk about that. That's not what you should do as a chair. I don't agree with that. You just need to slot it in when it's appropriate.
Right. But it's also, we're under the purview of Robert's rules, correct?
It's correct.
And so based on Robert's rules, and I don't have it in front of me, that the chair would be, again, responsible for setting the agenda for the meeting. And it would be the responsibility of those of us on the board to approach you with, and I don't remember what the wording is, but with advance notice for requests to be placed on the agenda.
Yeah, and Mark and Allison have been real good at that, you know, and not them, but they have, and I try to, you know, it's difficult, but I think we've got almost everything in. Now, I encourage Sophie and Matt, the same thing, either by text, email, but now we're using the issues log to keep a track of this stuff that we need to pay attention to. That's all. And again, this excuse me, Mark.
I was going to say, I've never had a problem getting an issue on the agenda as long as I bring it up at the proper time.
Yeah.
There's never been a problem. And if there ever is, then blackmail works great.
Well, there have been disagreements.
Maybe
for
a
sure,
couple, maybe a couple, but they were.
And it's not, I'm not saying this because I think that I have a problem with you or anything. I just think we should have the conversation up front about like how that works in case, because it is the chair's decision. And I think we should recognize
Yeah,
that.
the only question is, you know, I think the only thing we're talking about is when that should be done. And to me, that should be
Right.
done before the final issuance of the agenda. And that's what I've
What
always
do you
tried.
mean?
Well, if you have something you think is at a higher priority on the issues log that needs to be addressed ASAP, that's the conversation we should have when we're developing the agenda on the week and a half, week before the agenda, but not during a select board meeting. That's all.
But I mean, anybody can say, you know, can make a motion to add a.
Again.
There are times when we just really
Allison,
can't agree on.
we shouldn't be putting something on during a meeting that doesn't have backup in the packet per Robert's rules.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's what you just said. You said make a motion to add an agenda item.
No, to request it for the future. Like,
Oh, sure.
there have been.
Oh, sure. Oh, absolutely. During select board reports, I would recommend
Okay.
you say,
That's good.
Bob, I really think we need to talk about streetlights. Pick a topic.
Right.
That's fine with me, absolutely
During
fine.
select board, yeah.
And I just think we got to get it on sooner than later. That's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, all right,
That's it.
perfect, select board reports.
Now, what else?
Now, the other thing is that I don't see a remote meeting, a remote participation
That's going
component.
to be a separate policy we have to write ASAP. We're going to have a remote.
Why has that not been on the agenda? When Bill, I feel like there's a
Well,
real urgency,
Well, no, the reason
there's
is.
a lot of disagreement.
The reason no disagreement. The reason that MMA has a draft of one actually that we have. And I told Matt, as soon as we're very close to figuring out what we have available for, and I think we know now, the hybrid, now we can insert that into that policy so that people understand how that's going to work. That's the only reason we were waiting.
Well, the way I heard it from Bill is that there are a couple different interpretations, and that as long as we have a policy, then,
Right.
you know, for example, right now, if we had a policy saying that one of us could participate remotely, that would be possible, or that we could all, just like the planning board did, we could all choose to participate
That's a discussion.
remotely.
That's a discussion we'll have to have because as per the statute of the state, that is not allowed.
So I would really like to, this is an area where I feel like we've spent a lot of time disagreeing behind the scenes, and
We can discuss it in
that
public.
I think it's a lot of like, you say that interpretation, and then I give a different interpretation, and then,
That's fine.
so if we were to have Bill here,
Yep.
maybe,
Yep.
then we could really resolve it, and we could know what
Right.
is within our purview to change and
Perfect.
what is not.
That's fine. What I've already talked to Bill about it, and what we agreed to do was a couple of times to draft a policy ASAP, and I would do it even on the 24th, but I think the 7th is more logical because of absentees. I want everybody involved in that meeting.
No, but that's defeating the purpose, because then we want them to be able to participate remotely, so we.
No,
it.
no, the statute allows remote in the situations they're talking about, being out of town, being out of pocket.
Okay,
That's
I
allowed.
agree with that.
That's allowed. It's just a question about, we don't need to get into it here. We will get into it in discussion when we review the policy draft very soon for remote operation. It'll be separate.
Just feels like we're kicking it down the road, because right now it would be possible to make, it's for people to participate and give comments remotely. And we haven't, like everybody, members of the public. It's I think it should be a very big priority, especially given the changing situation with COVID, that we make it possible for people to give comments live during the meeting, and not just have it be the people that are willing to come here in person and expose themselves. Different people have and it's not just about COVID, it's about availability and traveling.
Understand. We haven't done it yet, and I had intended, at least recommend, it not be part of this, it be part of a separate policy, that's all.
To me, it's very integral to
But we don't
this.
we don't have it prepared here, and I think we can certainly get it done, but we're not going to get it done tonight.
So this to me, would be a perfect example of something that I felt like should have been on the agenda, and Bill told us over and over again it really needs to be on the agenda, and I feel like it's causing. So I'm just registering my
that's fine.
disagree.
That's fine.
I respect your,
respect yours.
whatever, but I don't know what everybody else thinks. I would like a very liberal remote participation policy that makes it as possible.
Just to be very clear before, we sort of go ahead and draft something, Bill has been pretty adamant that it's a clunky piece of legislation.
Right.
So it's best, clunky at best. So what you need to do as a group is figure out what do you want to do, and then write a policy around that, and don't worry too much about exactly what's in that really badly written piece of legislation.
Right.
So I just want to be very clear about that, because I feel like if we try to craft a policy too much around the language in the statute, we're all going to be doing this forever.
Right. Well, and that's where Bill and I did discuss this, and he does have remote policies he's done that he thinks help clean up that quirky statute, because it is.
But I think
We
it's
have to
really important.
direct him.
You as a group need to figure out what you want to do, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. For example, as a group, on occasion, do you all think that it would be acceptable if the circumstances are right, and you need to define what those circumstances are, to revert back to Zoom for whatever reason? Or do you want to have criteria around, there always needs to be somebody in this room, even though you're allowing both members of the board and members of the public to participate remotely?
Right.
What are you going to allow members of staff to do in terms of when they come in, all that kind of stuff? That's
true,
what,
but
as a group, you need to figure out before we sit down and write the policy.
Right, that's what I'm concerned about, is that we're going to waste time. I heard Bill say that same thing about the clunky legislation.
It is.
And so we have to tell him what we want, just like Audra said. So we should it would be helpful, I think, moving forward, to draft a draft policy that we could review if maybe everybody were to say.
No problem. No, I would encourage that. In fact, I just been remiss in getting it. No, I don't have to do it. Some of you can do it, but I think we need to have it, and we can communicate on it between now and next meeting, and decide, what the elements we think are important individually and collectively. And because some of it is related to whether or not the governor does stuff, which is very highly likely in the next weeks, in my opinion. But that's to your point about.
Well, I would just say, just stick to what Bill said originally. Figure out what's acceptable to all of you, what you want to see, and then we'll write the policy around that without worrying too much about whatever's going to happen that we can't foresee and what the statute says.
It doesn't need to all be tied to COVID necessarily
it doesn't.
either, because a lot of the benefit of remote participation goes well beyond COVID.
I think, forgetting about the computers and YouTube and Zoom and everything like that, I think we're a small town, and I think being able to communicate with the citizens is most important. And I think being able to participate is most important. So if we need to do some remote stuff for one of us to be in part of the meeting, I think it's important. And if somebody in the public only has access by Zoom or something else, I think they should be able to participate. We shouldn't cut participation, make it difficult. It's sort of like what they're talking about in the South right now. They're working to make it harder for people to vote. I want to make it easier for people to participate. It's plain and simple as it can get.
Yes, all people, those who are
And staff
electronic and
too,
those who are not electronic, both. Because
Yeah, we should just multiply the ways for people to attend, and make comments, not, restrict them, absolutely.
Well, okay, but we have to, well,
This is perfect. This is exactly what I need to hear, because it's going to be really easy for Bill and I to write something based on that feedback.
okay, let's draft it up, but we shouldn't wait until we have a meeting to send it out for, we need thinking stuff. So, I work better when there's something on paper and I can comment on it, rather than having a general discussion. That's just, I think that's more,
Have to give them some general, that's what we just did, is a little bit, we could have said, there are select boards that would say the highest and best value is trying to only do things in person as much as possible because we think remote things are bad. There are,
well,
so they would draft a different policy based on
I agree.
that.
I have to admit, I think the select board was elected to represent the people. If they want to be on Zoom, if they want to be in person, our job is, per that statute, is to be in person. That, I interpret that certainly.
To be in person?
Yep.
Only?
No,
No, there are situations that need to be defined. The situations need to be defined when a select board member can be remote. And that's where we have to work on the language.
But I'm saying that my perspective would be that should be as liberally construed as possible, because I believe that Mark from California
Right.
or Matt from
Right.
Singapore,
Right.
should they choose to want to participate from there, I believe their contribution can be
Totally agree.
just as valuable
Totally-
from that
no,
place as.
I said there are certain situations, you just named one. There are others where the select board can be remote and communicate. I agree. I don't disagree with that.
What situation where a select board member would want to be
little
remote, but.
Little jaundice from watching previous select boards and individuals who, well, I think it might be, I'm exaggerating, make a point, it might be more convenient for me to work from home tonight, because that's a personal decision. And that's where I think there's a line that needs to be drawn, but I'm not sure where. I don't have the definition of it. But I don't think it should just be, any reason to not be here, because I believe when it's physically, mentally possible, you should be here as an elected representative, because we have to serve the people who want to come here and the person who electronic both.
But right now, we're cutting out the electronic participation.
No,
where I have a big
that's going
problem.
to change very quickly.
Temporary.
That's going to change. That's very
gonna change
temporary.
once we're-
That's very temporary. We've
It's
been,
been the status quo for quite some time, so,
it's for a month.
no, for the entire history of town
Oh,
government.
oh,
Most people
I was-
that cannot attend these 6:30 meetings have been excluded
They won't be.
for generations, and it's the reason
Allison,
that.
we're jumping into select board versus the public. I totally agree with you in the public. I don't think there's any argument there. But I don't
We
think-
are not allowed, there's a way for the public to be able to participate remotely right now, and we're choosing not to employ it.
Oh, yeah, right, at the moment, yes, for 1 month we have. That's coming very quickly, thanks to Matt working.
We could have made it work for tonight, too, but we've chosen not to. but-
Again, because we need to do it right. That's all I've ever said. And they've been working on it very diligently, and I think we'll get there very quickly. So I don't, again, we can talk about this for the next hour, but I think we need to draft something. And you heard what we're talking about here, and in that criterion, what Bill thinks should be the criterion for the select board, whatever he thinks works with the statute, and then, of course, the public input on the hybrid, and well, that's the biggest issues, really. Right?
Yeah, I think that you've given me enough direction so we can write something and kind
I
of go
agree.
back and forth between then
That
and now.
statute is very poorly worded.
Yes.
I think I understand Bob's point about somebody saying, well, I think it'd be easier if I work from home tonight. I'm hoping that if you choose to perform this job and you get elected to it, that will not be a consideration. It will be, I want to do the best job I can. I want to be with the board as best you can. I mean, there are always going to be circumstances, but I have to trust the people that run for these positions to do the best they can.
I agree.
But like I said,
I agree.
make it as easy as possible for people to participate in these meetings as best they can.
And just as a segue from that, Mark, you and I were in the Charter Committee meeting where some of this was discussed. So they've revised the language in terms of responsibilities to actually be at a meeting.
Yeah, they did. They did discuss absentee stuff.
And again, I think some of the language, Mark, again, you were there, that I think it's much more engaged in terms of being up to date and
Right.
making sure that there's communication was the key that Dee was really emphasizing.
Yeah, they did. They put in some issues about select board members not showing up, and
Yeah, this idea that I just don't, because again, the old language would allow you just to basically work from home with no excuse.
right.
Or,
That's
and,
true. That's true.
and now it's set up that there would be some checks and balances for that.
So I think it's absolutely wonderful. If I'm in Boston sometime, I can still participate in the meeting, and that's fine. I think that's not an issue in my mind. Shouldn't be.
And then, Bob, to the discussion tonight, this segues beautifully or kind of dovetails beautifully into the work that I'm working with Audra and Juniper and Bruce in terms of the technology to
Yep,
support
yep.
what I'm hearing from Mark, what I'm hearing from Allison, and what I'm hearing from you, Bob.
So let's draft it up, Audra, you and Bill. But there must be other comments. No other comments or rules of order?
I liked the changes that I saw for,
It's just the other one, Allison, I thought was kind of pedestrian. I don't know what word to use for it. It just didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me.
no, I mean, I'm like here, we're going to put things on the Facebook page and on the town's website, and does it say anything about how when we have emergency meetings or, not regularly scheduled meetings, what the procedure would be for that? We've had
Doesn't say that.
some disagreements about that in the past.
We have a special meeting?
What's that?
Need a special select board meeting?
Yeah.
We could. We could.
Maybe we should just talk about it.
Right?
Uh,
Go ahead. What do you think? What do you think? You think we should go through I'm flexible in that regard because I think for the history, I was dead set against special town meetings way back when.
Special town meetings or select board meetings?
I'm sorry, special select board meetings. But I think that if it's, to really our job is to get things done timely. And we can't always plan on something being timely. So I think we should have our ability to do, in fact, there's an area where we might be able to do something, this approval of one purchase that we have to do, that could be done electronically.
In general, we've used these sort of archaic rules in the past as mostly, sometimes as excuses for not getting things done, and that there's a lot of the time not a public benefit to it. And so if we can commit to, in times when we need to get something done quickly, we all, of course, have the opportunity to get to that meeting and say, well, I don't really believe it was in the public benefit to vote on this so quickly, and we can, that we could not vote yes. But when we all agree that it's beneficial to schedule something quickly, I think we should do that if needed. And put it on, I think we should say that, from time to time, special select board meetings may be called by the chair.
Yeah, that's fine. I agree.
And
I agree.
that,
I have an alternating opinion, but sometimes if you try to legislate every consideration in that we're thinking about, well, what if this happens, what if this happens, it gets too restrictive and you can't predict everything. I think that everybody understands these are generally the rules, and if we have to have a special select board meeting, it's never been a problem calling it.
it has been a problem because we haven't agreed. There's been frustration from both the press and individual members where it wasn't, advertised or where, but just saying what you said there, putting that in the document, I just think helps to clear things up that sometimes this is going to happen. And
That's kind of say that.
yeah,
But it is. The select board will meet in accordance with the annual schedule approved by the board and published on the town website, unless the board decides at a prior meeting to hold special meetings and workshop or not to hold a meeting.
no, but that's at a prior meeting. So that's basically saying that we don't, unless we've decided at a prior meeting to have a special meeting, then we're not going to meet. And
Can we take out prior meeting?
Yeah, take up prior meeting.
Yeah.
it says unless the board decides. So
Yeah.
that,
Well, that's usually how it works.
but you can't have, the board can't decide outside of a meeting. It really is the chair.
Say the board, unless the board chair decides to hold a special,
Calls a special
calls
meeting.
a special meeting or workshop or not hold a meeting.
Yeah.
Right. I think we should give you that power to do that. And we can all show up at the meeting and be like,
What am I doing?
I don't agree with this, Bob, or.
Yeah.
I'm
Or we
taking
can,
notes, so I'll,
we can protest by
I'm
not
taking
showing
notes
up.
on these
Thank you,
changes, so
Audra.
I'll, yeah.
I agree, Allison. I agree. I don't think we use it enough.
I mean, we should, it just kind of puts the public on notice too, that, sometimes we might have to do this, and
Okay.
if we don't all agree with you, we don't have to show up, and then you can't have a meeting anyway, so it's not like giving you too much power, I don't think, it's.
No, I agree, because when Audra brings something up she needs, then that's usually when I react quickly, because we have to approve this by Tuesday, otherwise we lose the contract, whatever it might be.
I mean, I honestly can only think about one time that we did it, and it was because there was a business that needed their license approved right away because they had a shipment coming in that would have, so.
All right.
It's the decommissioning of the federal channel for Lemon
That
Morse.
as well, that as well.
Which I thought was pretty significant, and I was,
Yeah, it was.
We had to okay something for the boiler and the Opera House too. Was that?
I wasn't here then, but you're probably right.
Yeah, so.
I mean, this
it's
one was a
happened.
really big deal, the one that we did
Yes, it
before.
was.
Not-
Yeah, that's a good comment, I agree. Any others like that we should correct this thing and make it more user-friendly?
I mean, we might also just want to say we're gonna advertise it in the same way too, and if we do a special,
Okay,
I
we can
mean,
do that under under D, Audra, we should say
All meeting
all select
agendas.
board agendas will be transmitted for blah, 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 blah.
yeah.
That should encompass all of that. What else?
It's like none of these things seem like issues until they are. Like in the past years, I've looked at this document, and I've been like, whatever, yeah, all in favor, okay. But then when we've gotten to actual things, it's,
I agree.
thank you for taking the time to actually,
I think
That's an update.
I'm not suggesting this is a completely thought-through document. We just took a best shot as we could to try to get it more into 2021.
what about this thing about the committee liaisons? I'm a little uncomfortable with that.
Where is
Each select board reports on priority actions.
Right, action items they're working on, or
They're currently working on as committee liaisons,
Oh, it
members
should
of
be-
ad hoc task forces and advisory group, or any other priorities set by the board in its annual priority list. Is this your attempt to limit what we can bring up during select board reports?
It attempts to focus on what we're discussing in select board reports, yes. Because, we've moved around a little bit in talking about things that are, that are more, in my opinion, more directly related to talking to Audra directly one-on-one about setting meetings and doing this kind of thing. But I am open to whatever the board agrees to. But by the way, to your point, it should say that they're currently working on or committee liaisons or members of task force. It means all of those things, not related to any one of them. I mean, it seems to me that the meeting should be focused on some general, the select board report should be, remember, this whole thing's, correct me if I'm wrong, you know this business.
I mean, I know this is directed at me, so then let's just
not
put
at
it out
all.
in the open.
No,
and
not at all.
it's okay.
Everything you brought to bear has been related to river restoration. It's been related to what you're working on. And all those things. No, I disagree. I disagree completely. I think it's more
Is
just
it marked in the Opera House reports then? Or, because I kind of like the Opera House, like this is the upcoming shows. Mark and I are clearly the ones that are.
He's a committee liaison for the Opera House. He can talk about that. Why not?
Okay, so this isn't meant to address a specific issue? Because it's sometimes helpful if you just say directly, Allison, I wish you'd talk a little bit less about
It's
this.
something that you know or are working on that you think the rest of the board should know about.
Great.
Right, that's it. If we tried to define it here. By the way, it's not worded correctly, Allison, because as I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, because you know this better than I do, and that is if you when select boards.
Okay, can I take a stab at this?
No.
So, okay. So, Allison, remember when you said the agenda's a communication document?
Yes.
So I think this is Bob's attempt to kind of show that the select board reports have some structure to them and they tie back to priority things that we're working
That's all.
on. Yeah. Is that fair enough?
That's fair enough. That's all
And
it
it
is.
also stems from a question I had to Bob, like, what are these things? What am I supposed to report on?
Well, did the select board?
Also,
Should we put that in parentheses on each agenda? This is what select board reports are?
No.
Hey, local media.
Allison, what this drives from is very simple. In past years, I remember select board reports being only committee liaison reports. A long time ago.
They were, yes.
Then
because that was the only thing select board members got to do.
Well, but then it morphed into something a little bit more substantive. That's good. So this is just saying.
Reinforcing that.
Exactly. And this is saying I'm currently working on something related to energy of buildings, and you all should know what's going on there, or, whatever it might be, historic preservation, I don't care. But these are the categories currently working on, and yes, it should be attached to the things on our priority list, because if they're not, we probably shouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah.
Once in a while, there's going to be something that comes up that's like,
Nobody's going to slap your wrist.
you're going to hear about the oil spill this week, so
What?
I won't tell you yet.
Okay, good.
I've been saving it.
Thank you for select board reports.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say, it's sometimes what I want to talk about is not just for the 4 other people in this room, it's for the people out there.
Right.
And that's real important, so that's my comment.
But if it's important to talk to people out there about it, then it should be in a discussion item, and have a discussion so we can all have it, so people can listen to it, because people aren't going to wait for select board reports to see what we have to talk about.
That's why they used to be up at the beginning, which
And that's why
I really liked a lot better. And that was
I always felt that the select board reports were better at the beginning of the meeting than at the end. And I've never agreed that they should have been put at the end. And that's something we can discuss.
Yeah. As a member of the public, I always felt like that too, because I would come to the meeting, and that was sometimes the only interesting part of the whole meeting. You'd be there for some agenda item. And then just to be able to, I would learn little things. Leonard would sometimes be off topic, but it humanized, it helped me learn a few things about town, whereas you just go through nothing. You start the meeting as boring as possible with the consent agenda and all this stuff. You lose people. And you want people to watch. And we're disappointed that people don't watch sometimes, but
We have a job to perform.
I don't think it's being abused. I don't think select board report time is being abused.
But one of the things when the days when we have a bunch of different issues, and there are 20 people here in the meeting, and we had 4 or 5 in here. Once they're done with the issues, they've gone. So they won't hear the things that we would have wanted them to hear. That's why I liked it at the beginning, because we're covering it that way.
Most people are not listening.
Are they actually kind of doing?
Not. The attendance we have on YouTube and we'll get back to Zoom hybrid, there's not that many people. So I get what you're saying, and it's good to have. All I'm trying to do is define, when we talk to select board reports, what we're talking to. Now, if everybody doesn't agree, that's fine, we'll take it out. Matt, you have an opinion?
I'm holding off right now.
Okay, good. You're a good boy. Sophie?
No, I think they should be structured to the annual priorities list, and they should be at the end of the meeting.
And they should be at the what?
At the end of the meeting. Our job, we have so many items, agenda items, and we have a job to do. And our role is to fulfill the duty that we were imparted by the citizen of Camden. And that is to go through very boring agenda items,
I get
because
that.
that's what
I
we
mean,
do.
I've been doing this for quite a while, so I do
Yes,
understand that. I'm not saying we don't do that.
But
Being at the end, because we do sometimes take up too much time not knowing how extensive the agenda is going to be, and we're tired by the end.
True.
So it does give us a better,
Sure.
as long as you're not trying to shut it down. I enjoy listening. I enjoy listening to what the other select board members bring up extemporaneously sometimes, and I learn things from it. And so I just don't want to limit that entirely, but.
I have to disagree, because I think that the public elects us to know things and be aware of things, and part of that is communicating back to them about what we've learned, what we know, not just voting on different issues. I think, our knowledge is something that we need to put out there, because we spend more time on these issues, and letting the public know about it is very important.
You're disagreeing with me or with?
No, I think it should. I think that I've always felt the select board report should be at the beginning.
I always liked it at the beginning.
Well,
Also, but.
Matt, do you want to make any comments? Because I want to go on with this rules of order. No. Anyhow, does the board want to rearrange this language? Where it ends up is going to be, that's an agenda item. Do you want to change this?
Well, the other point I'll make about it is, we elect a chair to help coordinate everything, but we're all equal in power or ability to do the job. I don't think we should make a decision to restrict what we can speak about. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's why we're voted in.
I think in practice, it doesn't sound like we're actually going to be restricted, because if I thought this was like a subliminal message to you and me, but it doesn't sound if he starts pointing out things that are like, well, that's off, I don't think that was on the priority actions list, Allison, so don't mention roadside cleanups, then we're going to have a problem, but it doesn't seem like that's actually what's happening.
It just,
What the need for this is,
It
but
says priority/action items. How much more general can you get than that? I
can
mean,
we not capitalize that? That makes it seem like it's like some special thing that's like, it's not on document C, Allison, so.
It should be priority, all lowercase, priority action items they are currently working on, or committee liaison, or as members of ad hoc task forces.
I have to disagree. I don't think there's no reason to put that in there. I think we should be free to speak about what we need to speak about, because the only people that make decisions about what we speak about are the public that elect us.
Right.
And I think that's real important.
I guess we could start talking during public input on non-agenda items if you want to get into it like that. But I think that just makes it, like, if, you go to a middle school presentation and, this week I just wanted to share, I learned something really interesting at the middle school, and I promised them I would bring it up, and so I do that in my
We
select
have
board
two
report.
choices. We can either use the language as I described or take it out. Which does each board member suggest? I hear Sophie and I are probably in more of a close alignment of leaving
Yeah.
it in, because it's general as hell to me. Matt, what's your opinion?
I need a minute. I don't have an opinion quite yet.
I vote to take it out.
I know you're doing Allison, obviously. We took it out.
Well, no, I don't know what Allison's not
I
making here.
don't really like to, you and I mostly get along. I think it mostly goes well, as long as you're not,
It does.
if you don't see a big problem with the way it has been, then I don't think we.
No, I don't.
Here's
I'm not trying to shut you down.
I know you don't like it. I mean, it's been clear you don't like it because you keep putting it. you
Here's the
forget to put it on.
situation.
That's okay. I mean,
We're making a decision about something that we're trying to legislate something that has never been a problem. Why are we doing that?
Just trying to define for the public what it is.
right.
The public doesn't know what it is, and it's not just an open, it's not, by the way, have I ever shut down a select board member talking to anything during select board reports?
No?
All right, so this is just communicating to the public that the primary intent is to talk to blah, 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 blah. That's it. And make
so
way more
Mark,
out of it.
To that point, what could be added here? What language would be added to this that would satisfy the need to make it a more broad category?
I don't understand why we need to have any language. It's always said select board reports for years and years and years, and all of a sudden we're trying to label it. I don't think it's necessary. We're making a change that's not necessary.
I do see, the only problem that I do see with the current system is that there has been a tendency, maybe it's made us slightly lazier in terms of getting certain things listed as actual agenda items that can be, this is going back to like using the agenda as a communication document, so people could look at that agenda and see, those are some of these interesting things that they're talking about, rather than just select board reports, and then I don't have to plan ahead, and I can just like blah, 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 blah about river restoration in the select board report, maybe.
That's
So
exactly what I think.
Maybe, I do think we should try a little bit harder sometimes to add more discussion items on actual topics that somebody might look at and be like,
Yes.
that's an interesting topic.
Yes.
Rather than burying it all in select board reports.
That's exactly what I'm trying to press here.
That's a
Because-
very good way
That's
of putting it.
exactly, because
Yeah.
we have this, remember, we've thanks to Audra's help, we've done action items, discussion items, updates, and there's no reason why any one of us can't be proactive enough to say, I'd like to put this item on a discussion item. There's no reason. It doesn't have to wait for this generic topic of select board reports, because I don't think a person in the world knows, even today, no matter how many years we've been doing it, that they understand what that means. This is
Right.
just an attempt to try to, if you have a discussion item, Mark, I think we should raise its intensity for the public, so they can see that we want to talk about tennis courts, whatever. I don't care what it is.
I
And
understand.
we can discuss it,
No,
and
I-
people going to know we're going to discuss it, and let's draw them to the meeting, or draw them to see at least go see the YouTube video after the meeting.
Yeah.
They can zoom over to the.
So
to
much
that
more
place.
we do than what we say
Yeah,
here.
I just don't understand. You know what it is? I'm sorry. It feels a little bit like we just want to have this little two item thing on the agenda that can be anything that people, no, if it's that important, let's get it on the agenda.
But sometimes we have to admit, there are things that come up during the year that, I mean, look at all the things that town staff end up working on because they come up. And if we were to forbid that, we would be insane, because part of our job is to be responsive to what we learn and what we see. So bringing things up in select board reports, some is okay. I think there are different issues going
I think there are.
on here.
I think there are.
But we can bring stuff up through the agenda
course,
also,
of course.
and the issue log. So I think, for me, the select board reports is like, I'm involved in committee X or in task force Z, and I'm going to take 3 minutes to let the public know the work I've been doing this week or this month on it. Because it's not necessarily going to be in the press, it's not necessarily going to be an action item.
Yeah.
But there's work ongoing,
Right.
and I don't think that the public sees how much work we're doing in between select board meetings and where we make decisions or we take actions.
And that's where we have this, and I think it's important to elevate some of those things, because maybe.
Actual agenda items and not just put them in our select board
Exactly,
report. So that's why I use the select board report more for, I've really noticed there's a lot of trash on Mechanic Street sometimes.
Well, an example of that was, you talked to me about because we're talking about ARPA funds tonight, and there's some important information to talk about what our task force is doing on broadband in that direct relationship. That probably, in hindsight, should have been on the agenda.
Well, but it also seems like it would be a segue towards an agenda item.
Well-
I mean, the reports become a pathway towards, 2 weeks from now, we'll put that on the agenda. Again, it's haven't been
But you know what, I've never heard a request in select board reports of, let's put this on agenda in 2 weeks.
I disagree with that. But,
I don't remember any.
I mean, how
Anyway,
much, if it's really not, if you really don't think it's a problem,
no, again, the
I think it's
objective.
to bring the focus more on what we do, and it's not an issue of curtailing anything.
No.
It's really
No.
highlighting the
There's
stuff.
no censorship going on. It's just trying to generally define what select board reports above the public, its rules of order, and then if there's something really important, I want to elevate it to a discussion item. That's all, or an update. We have both those categories.
And that's fine.
Yeah,
The
and
discussion
that-
items is that's a great addition to the thing.
Right. So this intent was just, no italics, it was to say we priority items, action items, they're currently working on, or as committee liaison, or as members of ad hoc task forces and advisory committees, et cetera, et
whereas
cetera.
community members,
Yeah, well, it's not about community members, it's about, it's a select board report, it doesn't say community report. But if.
well, no, there's that, sorry, but that's part of, that's what I'm
But
here for.
I'm trying to, I feel that I want to encourage the board members to think proactively about the things they want to talk about and whatever, and the agenda, let's get it on the agenda.
Well, then committee reports, and the thing I don't like that it turned into was just like this committee reporting secretary position.
Yeah, I don't want.
And then there's like this huge obligation, like, Mark, why didn't you let us know every single thing the planning board was working on? And
Mark has been
that's
very-
that's not the way it should work. That shouldn't be the only way we find out
Mark
about.
has been very good about bringing planning board type issues during select board reports and talking about them.
I don't
Opera
know.
House, he's talked about them.
That's-
And he has to decide whether it's going to be discussed during select board reports, or if it's important enough, Mark should tell me, I want to put it on a discussion item. That's all I'm saying.
But we can't like legislate that. I feel like it's still just going to be a feeling by feel, and
I don't think there's any attempt to legislate here. It's just a definition for the public. If the board wants it out, I'm fine to take it out. That's
this
what,
is too restrictive as written, but.
I think we could move on, because I think we're
All right.
at basically,
All right. Well, I just wanna get-
no decision right now, it's just a draft, so we can move on and
well,
readdress it.
the intent is to approve this document, modify it, and approve it. We're not going to table it and go forward again with
Well,
it.
Matt wants more time to do it. Alice and I feel one way, you and.
I want the remote meeting policy to all be worked in, so I think we should table it and bring it all back together and.
Because we have a tie vote right now if Matt doesn't have a decision one way or the other.
I don't
I mean,
care.
what benefit is there to getting it voted on and approved tonight.
To get it off our action list, because I believe the remote policy should be a separate document. That's why.
I think there might be crossover that we're not aware of right now, things that come up as we're looking at the remote meeting policy that,
Do you see them as separate, or?
No, so I think the meetings, the remote policy should be remote, it should be separated from this. I mean, when we table items, we end up not doing things. So there's a draft, there's comments that we've all made on this draft, and we should move forward with the new format and apply it as soon as possible. I don't see any benefit in tabling it, actually.
I don't see any benefit in us doing it with like a disagreement and, I mean, I can live with whatever, but
Me too.
it'd be nicer if we all agreed, kind of.
If, Matt, if you have no opinion, then, I don't want to state your opinion regarding special reports, then you know what, we'll just take it out. Take the paragraph out, and then we'll go forward with it.
And you could add it back later if needed.
Yeah, we can always tackle it later. Let's see how it plays. Take out I and other changes you documented.
I or J?
Audra? And any other comments?
All persons attending the select board meetings will be treated with respect.
Yeah,
Is that new or is that all?
That was on there before.
there.
That was always there. I don't respect me. No, I agree. It's good.
So, point of clarification, so we're looking to remove J at this point,
What?
remove section J. Is that,
Is that Jay? I thought it was I. I'm sorry, I can't read. Yes, just delete it. Delete it. It's not worth the hassling another half an hour on this one.
Me to go,
We've seen the log and the template before we all like agree to,
Oh, the log is very
the use of
simplistic.
capitalization I find to be slightly problematic, but,
We're taking it out.
What? I have one addition for K.
Okay.
I'm concerned that all persons attending the select board meetings will be treated with respect. Does that mean no tomatoes, no rotten eggs?
No, that's allowed. That's allowed.
Oh, okay, that's respect, okay. That's.
I just think this, this document has been rather archaic for a while, in my opinion. This is an attempt to take one step in the right direction. It ain't over. We'll take Jay out, make the comments, changes Audra has drafted, and move on, and this will be our
do you want me to
August.
read them back to all of you?
hold on, just,
Say what?
I have one more.
Go
thing
ahead.
to add. Can we really commit to logging every agenda suggestion that we receive from the public?
Which one are you looking at, Allison?
G, agenda items suggested by the public will be logged in the select board issues log.
No, you can't.
That's too much.
No, I think,
We filter, people give me
Yeah.
suggestions on
Yeah, me
agenda
too.
items all the
Me too,
time,
and
and
I
I
filter them.
filter them,
Yeah.
and I'm not committing to writing everything in a log.
But some of them have to be considered, right?
They-
So do we all use our discretion, or
well, I
what's
think
the proper
we use our
way?
discretion to determine whether to carry it to the next level.
Okay.
That's really what I
We
think
don't
that's
need
what
to
she's
we
saying.
can take it out, and we can all agree on that, and we don't need to have a policy about that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree. Okay, take out G. Yeah?
The whole, all of G?
Yeah.
Yeah, public may suggest agenda, yeah, I mean, that's our job, that's why people
Yeah,
elect us.
I agree, Allison. And you all, if you get, and Allison does, and I know you all will too, if something's coming from the public, they say, hey, Bob, we really should, cool. And then at worst case, we would agree to put it on the log. That's fine with me. I think that's very good. Yeah, because I get a lot of requests too from people, and I'm saying, I tell them, sorry, that's not going to go on because blah, 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 blah.
That's been discussed before, that's not within our purview, that's,
Exactly, exactly. People don't understand what our purview is, when you're going to put tables on the sidewalks and stuff. Hey, we can't do that.
Or more like, when are you going to do X, Y, and Z with the school board?
Right.
But that's
people have the opportunity to come during
Right.
public input on non-agenda items. They get to be on the record then when they send,
Yep.
when they do
Yep.
public input and they
No, I
can.
have no problem taking that one out. Anything else? All right, can we move to at least accept it in its current form with those deletions and corrections?
So move.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Should we say something about there shall be a remote meeting policy as an
Well,
addendum
I
to
think
this? Do we need?
that's a given. We don't need to, I don't believe we need to commit that. We need to have it and we will have it. And we already discussed that.
Okay.
All right, then we have a motion. Did anybody second? Yes, we have a second. Just more further discussion.
Please, no.
Rotten tomatoes or anything. All right, all those in favor, 5-0. Thank you. That was a good discussion. And it's the giant leap for mankind to have this effective August 10th. The next item on our agenda, I believe, is the long-awaited and with anticipation. Hold on a second. I think it's the warrants.
The warrants?
Yeah, I believe it's the warrants. I got to go back to agenda. Yeah, there's two treasurer disbursement warrants that are policies for those two that are in our packet. We discussed these. You've read them. I took what we discussed prior and put them into wording and reference statutes. Any comments?
I think they read perfectly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's how brief they are. Motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve a policy for treasurer's disbursement warrants.
Second.
Motion made in second. Discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you. And the last,
If we can remove the extra punctuations, that would be nice.
what?
There are extra punctuation.
Yes,
Okay, thank
Just
you.
clean the extra punctuation.
Yes.
periods after
Okay.
warrant.
Yeah, and one period after chair.
Well, okay, well,
Right.
election of MMA vice president and executive committee members. As I understand it, we have one person running for one place and three people running for three places. They're in the packet.
Yeah,
Real
so this
brain-
is really, they just,
A real brain
the
teaser.
nomination committee gives a slate of officers and
This seemed very suspect to me.
you take
You think?
what you get.
I don't care for some of the MMA stuff.
I
Who
would
do we-
like to be on the committee that, the education committee that determines like, programming for, towns and their convention and other,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
we're not going to save, it's almost like I don't even want to vote on this.
That's
because-
funny you mentioned that, yeah, because I sent a note to Bob about abstaining because I didn't know any of these people. Well, because it also comes
They've
back to
given us
the,
no choices.
and the county, we've had this big conversation about the county commissioners, and we just kind of blindly approve people without knowing anything about them.
what happens if we
so
don't?
funny. I had this exact same conversation with the Rockland City Council when I was the city manager there.
Yeah, but what happens?
Same frustration.
What happens if we don't vote on it?
Exactly.
Nothing.
And they don't give us any write-in, and they even have to say, we don't let you write in people. We've had this problem in the past. No protest votes.
I read through and they all have interesting experience.
Yeah.
I noticed they're all coming from towns of about 10 to 15 people, I believe.
Max.
Yeah, and, but some of them have done some other experience in larger towns. I went through so their experience, they've done it for a while, and
I mean,
Yeah, but
Allison, you were the one who mentioned a few weeks ago about rubber stamping stuff. I mean, this is
It's very much set up that way.
But we're not legally required to rubber stamp this one, whereas some of them, it seems like we are.
You
I mean,
don't have to do this if you don't want. I mean, yeah.
I want,
Quorum, right, because the board has to, all of us have to approve, or three of us have to approve?
oh,
or-
well, anything we vote for has to be three of us.
Yeah, exactly, so.
So we minimum of three.
It's kind
no
of
matter-
it's also a little political statement about, you know what, we don't really like rubber
Yeah,
stamping.
it's fine.
not,
We don't like the process is.
so we had to, I Googled these folks and there's nothing, it's just like, who are you? What do you do?
I mean, they do send out notification that they're looking for executive committee members and to submit, your name and your resume if you'd like to do it, so.
and can you remind us of the roles and responsibilities of the MMA Executive Committee?
So they're yeah, I mean, they're the sort of main governance board of MMA. So there, there's a board of directors and
Fairly
then the
powerful
executive
organization.
committee, they're the officers on the board of directors.
But
I mean, a fair amount of power. Did they, I mean, and how does the nominating committee get selected?
Yeah, exactly. There's a whole thing with that, and
I don't want to get involved in this.
That's the problem. That's the problem right there.
You're right.
That we don't want, we're like, oh, the MMA, but then it's like you get these emails that are like spending all this money on lobbying and different things, and you're like, oh, I guess all towns feel like this.
Well, we have it here as an action item. We can do one of three things. We can we can
Well,
prove
this
it.
is also.
Copying their
this is a
remote meeting
good
policy.
Conversation to have, because I guess moving forward, if you'd all like to be more abreast of MMA governance type stuff, and just me telling you, okay, so they're looking for officers, is anybody interested? Would you like me to do it? Would you like a member of staff to do it? You know, whatever sort of position is available, I'm happy to keep you all informed.
How much do we pay to be a part of the MMA?
I don't know off the top
It's
of my
not
head.
huge. It's not huge. I forget, it's hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, it's like 3 or
It's
4.
not huge.
Would you like to do one of these jobs?
No.
I mean, I can see benefit
I-
in becoming more involved.
Yeah, if you weren't involved in Knox County, I would agree.
I mean, there's
She's not
so
really involved
there are
so much
so
as-
many things where I say to myself, well, I can't really complain about this because I'm not involved. And if I want to,
Yeah, I agree.
And if I wanted, things to be better, I need to make them better, and I need to get involved.
Well, it's just one of those priority things. You are involved in McEd. She is involved in that.
Yes, I'm
I
aware.
would say like that's
So,
a better
that's why
use of my
that's why I
time
was
right
meaning-
now.
Huh?
That's a better use of my time right
Okay,
now.
I would agree.
MMA is
Benefit Camden more by heavy
Well,
involvement in McEd
This
than
action item, we can
light
either,
involvement in MMA.
we can either move to not address it, we can move to approve it, or decline it. Same, one of the three of the same.
I would
thing.
move that we decline to vote on
Do that.
the
Second.
nominations.
I second.
Motion made and seconded. Comments, discussion. All those in favor?
Yes, the
It's
stop,
5-0.
stop
Thank
the
you. I love
rubber
it.
stamping.
But I further propose that we also let them know why we're not voting on this.
Yeah.
And say
Yeah.
that this process is just
Yeah.
rubber
Yeah,
stamping.
when we
There's
can
no
just-
bios, there's no,
There's bios in there.
And that we also maybe don't always feel good about some of the direction of the
Yeah,
organization.
I guess the bottom line is we don't want to be, them to reach out to us for rubber stamping, but rather input on certain policies.
Policies, yeah.
Or that kind of thing, more proactive in that. We'd be happy to address that in our select board.
Also, there's going to be a new executive director, so I'm guessing that
Oh,
there'll
might
be a bit
change.
of a road tour to
Right.
speak to members.
Hired by this group, probably.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
Absolutely.
the MMA is just notoriously, just incredibly conservative.
And a bit of a, once you get in, you're part of the gang, but if you haven't been
Clubbish.
involved, it's hard to.
it's
Yeah.
clubbish.
So I don't feel that it.
Kickish,
Yeah, I've tried to get involved, and it's really, really difficult.
I would bet,
like everything in Maine.
I would bet.
Just remember,
I'd like
we're
a
being
more-
recorded, everybody. I
I agree with Sophie. We make it too difficult.
Like the Legislative Policy Committee, we didn't even get a chance.
Not right?
No,
No.
because
I thought we
the
put you.
former town manager of Rockport, because he'd been involved before, knew the process, knew how to do it, and I was just kind of like, well, I missed the deadline, so that's it for me.
That's the big one, is the legislative policy, because the emails that I get from them about what bills we should be concerned about, it doesn't feel like it's representative of Camden
Yeah.
residents very well. And that makes a difference when they are speaking on behalf of municipalities and telling us what we should be scared of. And it's usually like, it's not always good. It's not always
Well,
what I agree
there
with.
is, they are working on certain stuff going on in the legislature normally. And some of this stuff is highly controversial, and MMA certainly gets involved in it. We don't hear anything about it unless you read your little report you get in your inbox. There's got to be a better way of doing that and getting more proactive communication with the towns, in my opinion.
Well, if you read that report, though, sometimes it's like, I don't.
Oh, I did, and I do. And then somebody said, holy crap, I have to find out about it this way? When they had some stuff that was truly upsetting, and to me, they were trying to expose.
I would say of
Well,
all
if
things
you
they
read
do,
the
their
Maine
lobbying
Townsman,
is
but-
pretty good considering the number of people they have doing it.
That's true.
That's the thing, is that they are fairly effective at their lobbying, but it's not always the things I would want
Right.
lobby for or against.
I agree. Anyway, onward and upward to discussion items, and the first one we have is ARPA, or the Knox County American Rescue Plan Act request for proposals. Audra, do you want to give us a capsule on that?
Yes, so the Knox County Commissioners had a special meeting where they determined that they needed to come up with a process for determining what the interest is amongst municipalities and not-for-profits regarding ARPA funds. So the American Rescue Plan Act is dispersing funds directly to municipalities. And I told you all about we're going to receive almost $500,000 over a 2-year period because we're not an entitlement community. And that falls under like the community development block grant program, what's considered an entitlement community and what's not. There's only a few in Maine. Cumberland County is an entitlement community, all except for I think the city of Portland, which is an entitlement community, Bangor, Lewiston, Auburn, and I think Biddeford, Saco area. And I believe everybody else is non-entitlement communities. So any federal money through the CDBG program and now the ARPA funds get passed through from the state to municipalities. And the state has kept on asking for extensions for the disbursement of those funds. So we can't expect to receive our ARPA distribution until September. That just came out today.
Which is a couple $100,000.
About 250, a little bit shy of that. However, Knox County, or all the counties as well, received ARPA funds. Knox County received half of their $7.7 million contribution at some point in July, I believe, or early,
June.
It was June around election time. So they, of course, received a lot of, requests from interested parties. Midcoast Internet Coalition, or they were Midcoast Internet Coalition at the time. Now it's Midcoast Internet Development Corporation. But they, along with the towns of Camden, Rockport, Thomaston, Rockland, Cushing was there, I believe. Even though Hope wasn't part of the Development Corporation, they're still part of the, the coalition when it wasn't formally a corporation. They spoke in favor of Knox County allocating those funds towards broadband. I believe it was 9 municipalities in all. Matt might remember some of the other ones, but 9 is half of the municipalities within Knox County all spoke in support of those of ARPA funds or some portion thereof. The first request that was made was for $4 million to be allocated to Midcoast Internet Development Corporation for building a regional broadband network. The commissioners were interested in finding out what other sort of entities in Knox County were interested in those funds as well, because Knox County Homeless Coalition has put in a request for, I believe it's like $4.3 million for affordable housing development projects in specific municipalities within the county. And then there have been other requests sort of flowing in from different places.
Yep.
There, some municipalities saying, we just want you to directly disperse it to us, and then we figure out what we want to do with it. So in the face of all that, they decided to come up with, a funding request for proposals. And so just wanted to make you aware of that. And
Well, in that regard, Matt, you have some information in terms of RFP from the Broadband Task Force.
Yes, in the middle right now of preparing an application for the Development Corporation to the Knox County Commissioners, specifically for $750,000.
Okay. Good segue.
yeah, so I would say that, given our priorities that, we've discussed and you've established as a board, and that we're a charter member of Midcoast Internet Development Corporation, I think, writing a letter of support to go along with their application, getting members of the select board to speak at county commissioner meetings is going to be really, really important. One of the more frustrating sort of interactions with the county commissioners and all of this is they keep on saying, well, we want to hear what the municipalities want. We want to hear what our communities want. 9 communities within your county are here telling you what we want you to spend the money on. And we are representative of your communities, and we're telling you this. So I don't know how much better than having me and select board members show up at their meetings to say we're speaking on behalf of our communities. But anyway, I'm just sort of appealing to you for help with this, because I think Midcoast Internet is going to need it. when it comes to
So
putting in an application.
One thing you proposed to the board is that we would write a supporting letter to the corporation, and I don't see anybody shaking their heads no to that. Please speak up if you do. But what else can we do?
I think, when the time comes where it's an actual agenda item for the county commissioners meeting, for one or all, like as many of you as possible to show up and support is going to
Are
be.
they doing in-person meetings again, or are they still?
I believe they're still on Zoom.
They one last one that was, I know that because I showed up
Yeah.
and tried to kill myself. It was not fun. It was not fun. I didn't like it at all. I was very, very disappointed in it, extremely disappointed in it. But
I'm just glad they've kind of come up with some sort of.
yeah,
process.
yeah. I mean, it'd be nice if they had a live thing, because then it's always more effective to be in person, in my opinion.
I feel the opposite.
Well,
But
okay.
you can put that in the letter, too.
Anyway, whatever else you need, Audra, just keep us informed, especially at meetings, because we have to kind of plan in advance, so all of us, our schedule, so we can be on Zoom or whatever we have to do but more importantly, in parallel with that, what you recommend we do during that meeting. To watch it and listen to is one thing, but it's really important to get on and raise your hand and say something, poignant, because I haven't seen enough of that.
Yeah, and Commissioner Pullman is trying to set up a meeting with all of the municipalities in her district, which includes Camden. So
Yeah.
she's trying to.
Sharon Pullman.
Yeah. So I'll be
Okay.
communicating that to all of you.
All right. Okay. Priorities for, I'm sorry, Allison. It's fine.
Oh, I was going in that direction. So my reaction watching that meeting was a little bit, I think because I'm not as deep into the internet discussion and things aren't as obvious to me and the reasons to choose one thing over another, I found myself a little bit more compassionate in terms of being in the commissioner's position and trying to weigh the responsibility and then listening to the, like the Homeless Coalition, their presentation I thought was quite good. And in a subsequent conversation with Audra, I felt like a lot of your comments about, the most effective way to go about allocating money and how to, like affordable housing. Affordable housing, I think, is something that we all collectively agree is really, really important. And so listening to the presentation from the Homeless Coalition was like, yeah, okay, well, who's going to be against that? But I didn't know if maybe you would just take a moment, Audra, just to talk about some of the things you brought up with transportation and zoning and kind of why it's so essential that those, there's certain types of projects that require even more coordinating with municipalities than others.
Oh, absolutely. And I sort of made this point to Sharon Pullman, and I've talked about it with other people. I don't think anyone disagrees that there's a crisis with housing, and especially, workforce housing that's affordable to the people who, make our communities function. But some of the, there were quite a few projects that were proposed where it's not best practice in terms of how you do an affordable housing project. So things like putting multi-unit developments that are, going to be people who need to access services and employment out on Route 1 in the middle of nowhere where there's no transportation, they're not close to jobs, they're not close to services, is hugely problematic. And that was, in Rockport, where they haven't spoken with, to see if the zoning allows for the density that they need to make it sort of a worthwhile investment.
Right.
That's problematic. And I saw, almost $500,000 for housing on Isla Ho. How can you point to that and say that's really good investment for the amount of money that it is that's going to benefit the rest of Knox County? There are all kinds of things like that I feel like when you're kind of looking at one to the other, are you making an investment that's going to benefit the largest amount of people in the county and directly solve a problem? Or are you trying to nibble around the edges of a problem and do something that's making everybody feel good, but is not having a benefit that really is broad in terms of how it's impacting people in the county, particularly the people that we want it to impact, which is people who need access to affordable housing.
Right.
And I think it's really a shame that we're not working together more on the affordable housing issue with Knox County Homeless Coalition and the county, because we know best where are there appropriate sites within our communities that fit the criteria, being close to jobs, being close to, I mean, there's limited transportation, but walkable, bikeable.
Sure.
We even have trust fund money that we would could use to support that, and
Leverage
we've
money that we have. You know, there are all kinds of things I think that could be, you know, that could be done and done better if we all work together. And I think that that's kind of a shame that it seems like it's affordable housing versus broadband, but I don't think it is. I think it's about us all trying to collaborate more and come up with the projects that are going to have the best bang for the buck for the county and for our individual communities.
Fundamentally, the issue is there's no collaboration with the local towns within Knox
maybe the
County.
letter could say some of that,
I would agree.
because I do think it turned into, like, from a spectator's perspective, affordable housing versus internet.
Well, and that's very
And-
much what the commissioners made it sound like.
I think
too.
it's not obvious, like even when you said, you know, it's really important that they collaborate with the towns. When I was watching that meeting and I heard that, I thought, well, yeah, that sounds good, but I actually couldn't come up with in my head what that actually means and why that's important. And it was talking to you later, it was like, oh, okay, I get this now. So I think sometimes just you underestimate the amount of knowledge that you have, or that, you know, a few other people might have, and spelling that out for the layman, even, you know, me, is good. The other thing that I'm wondering is why we're not pushing harder for, like, public transportation being a big use of those funds, because that's always been identified as a major thing that we need here. It's always been a lack of funding that has kind of killed it, I think, if I've understood correctly.
Absolutely.
So if I can just cut in, again, this particular tranche of funding has very strict, from the Treasury Department, has guidelines.
Right.
This new infrastructure bill that's coming through Senate right now would allow, hypothetically, for things like transportation. So again, that's what we're also dealing with, is the language and the limitations of this particular tranche.
You don't think the ARPA funds can be used for public transportation?
ARPA can't. However,
Okay.
this is another sort of disappointment with the fact that we don't have better collaboration between the county and municipalities. They received, I think it was about 17 million for the
Right.
airport as
Right.
part of the CARES
Right.
Act
Right.
stimulus
Right.
funding bill. You know, ground transportation to an airport, that is a perfect excuse for a regional transportation system that's anchored by the airport.
Oh my
that,
gosh.
you know, like, that's the kind of stuff that I really wish that we were all working together more, because we could have done that.
But fundamentally, until we solve the collaboration problem, it's going to happen time and time again.
Well, and that's the bigger picture that Audra and I, Bob, have been talking about. It's time to restructure the communication networks and the communications avenues between the municipalities and the county.
Yep.
Because right now it is a complete disconnect.
Yeah.
We need a county charter change in order to.
We do, but we also need to be more engaged. You know, we tell people
Well,
all
we
the
have to
time
do that.
if
Nobody
you
else
want
is
to
gonna-
change things here, you need to be more engaged in what it is we're doing, but it's the same for us on the county level.
I know, and we say that, but how can we?
Shouldn't we also be hitting our local towns next to us and encouraging them to do the same thing?
I mean, they've been incredibly responsive.
Really?
I've been in touch with my colleagues, and anytime
Great.
I've asked them to send something, you know, particularly the other service center communities, so Rockport, Rockland, and Thomaston, we're all in lockstep in terms of what we're asking for.
I guess sending stuff is one thing, but getting in their face is another one. And I think
do
getting.
think going to
Lots of different
meetings,
people.
sending them emails, sending them letters.
Yeah.
They get really mad about us sending them letters,
They
but
do. They
hey,
do.
that's a normal part of communicating with elected officials, so.
And they're going to say that they're not elected by us. They're elected by the larger, you know, populace. And so unless we elect different people, then,
Yep,
and I mean, the way that it works, that's what
Yep.
Camden's representatives haven't always been.
you're right, the electoral process that we need to.
And we
pay
need to
attention
help. That would be a good, you
Yeah.
know, we're on the inside, so we know that it matters more than the average person realizes. And so
Right.
we need to elevate
Right.
you know, the importance of these positions, and maybe we could host like debates or something, I don't know.
Keep
But
it coming, Audra. Let us know what we can do.
Well, Matt and I are on it.
Good,
we could hire lobbyists.
good. Well, that's our
I guess this
ARPA.
is a good segue into our
Yeah,
ARPA funds and how we want to use them.
100,000.
Well, it's going to be 250 for the first chunk.
50,
Yeah.
$250,000.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that we need to sort of play a few things by ear because there are just so many opportunities coming out of the federal government. Like in my report, I'll talk to you about another one that,
Okay.
you know, just sort of everybody's aware of now. But I think we kind of need to be flexible and opportunistic. I think that ideally, if we're able to sort of get some partnership and collaboration from the county on broadband, that would sort of free us up to look at
I see.
sewer expansions.
Right. Right.
Which is great for opening up certain areas for development of affordable housing. But I do think that if the county doesn't partner with us, we're going to have to look at skin in the game for broadband with
Yep.
Midcoast Internet Development Corporation. So I think, you know, those are the things that I would recommend as a board you look at in terms of what aligns with your priorities and good use of those funds and trying to
Okay.
look at how we can leverage them.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sewer expansion, I think it depends where.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, my thought would be that we should be in a position to maybe be supportive of a John Street project, because that goes along with our comprehensive plan. The sewer and the sidewalk there was identified as like a major priority in the comprehensive plan. So, and then also the broadband thing. I think there are probably other sources of funding potentially for either of those things, but that we should be kind of like you said, but those are the things that kind of, a Sagamore sewer expansion wouldn't be as high of a priority in my mind as a John Street. But
Established build-out. I think there's a lot of, when you think this money's going to be received, the 250, first 250 is in September sometime. They keep delaying this.
They do keep delaying it.
I think you're right about being a little flexible because that's kind of chickens when the chickens are on the horizon.
Right, and we're going to have to go through town meeting approval.
Of course.
For the use of those funds.
Of course.
So.
Makes sense. Yeah, and any income of funds. All right.
And I'll just end with the idea that this is a national debate.
Yep.
So Audra, I see Audra pretty much every day, and this is part of our, because it really is a national debate. And the language that's being used constantly is this idea of a capital stack, although this is, you know, a windfall. This is a once in a generation opportunity in terms of funding. Both municipalities and counties, Bob, are trying to find a way to leverage whatever that funding is. How can we work together? And that's even in Lincoln County and Waldo, on either side of us, they have a very different approach than our good friends in the Knox County Commission. They're really looking at ways to, again, create a capital stack or leverage this funding in a way that has a broader impact, but also can work not just as a one-off, whether it's 244 or even $3.5 million. You know, how can we really build this and combine it with other resources?
I think, Audra, as we go forward on regular meetings, just continue the updates for us so we know when the action, well, when then more of an action is required to prioritize the use of the funds.
And I mean, and there could be times where we sort of have to drop everything and
Yep.
get you guys to come to a meeting, or we have our own special meeting to
Sure.
sort some of this stuff out because, you know, Matt and I have been getting these updates on special commission meetings where they're making really significant decisions.
Okay, good.
And not good decisions.
Okay, good.
Not good. I'm being recorded, so
Like
I'll
giving
just
big
leave it at
bonuses.
that. Not good.
Sheriff's deputies and, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's a whole, anyway, that's great. Thanks for that, that discussion on both items here. That it's good news, bad news kind of a thing, but yeah, that's fine.
I think the good news, though, Bob, just to end on a positive, is that, you know, if we do bring this together, I mean, we're talking about collaborations, even with the Homeless Coalition, trying to speak with them about what their needs are, trying to have that synergy, because we're really trying to do the best we can for people who are in trouble right now. And there are a lot of them in the county. So either, again, in terms of services or in terms of opportunities for communication that are essential at this point.
Cool.
So.
All right, we'll take a 2-minute break, wait for Allison to return so we can go on to discuss the task force. Meanwhile, you can sing. In the meantime, you can sing a song if you'd like to. Give some background music while we're on hold
Sing
here.
a song with the mask on. Trying to whistle the Jeopardy theme.
Bruce, is this when the commercials roll, Bruce, back there? Is you roll the commercials, something about hair products or
There
maybe,
you go.
there we go.
The new Camden shampoo.
And yes, some shampoo
There you
would be
go.
great for those.
Here she comes. Okay, we're back on, Bruce. Now that Allison's returned, we were just getting, we took a 2-minute break and we took a nap. We were on the item, Allison, about the discussion item on the Library Trust Select Board Task Force. As you all know, the meeting we were to have on Monday was postponed with the joint meeting between the trustees of the library and the Camden Select Board. And Audra and I met with them on Monday morning, and that was myself, Audra, the president of the trustees, and also the executive director of the library. And the consensus opinion was that we've got some urgent things to attack, and we can't let them sit and wait. And perhaps even we had a discussion about would have been about 18 people in a room, how effective that would be in hindsight. What they have agreed to, and when we have today, was to recommend a small, modest-sized task force. And a task force would be comprised of 2 Camden Select Board members and Audra as town manager, and on their side it would be 3 trustees and their executive director. And the purpose, the agenda which Audra will work on for the group was proposed to meet as early as next week, because we pointed out there's some immediate decisions that need to be made with regard to certain priorities on the various options with respect to the issue of Montgomery Dam. And the purpose here is to designate our 2 members, select board members, so they can get this thing moving. And I think we originally talked about, Monday or Tuesday of next week as a potential first meeting as a group. So with that, honestly, I certainly feel that one of those 2 members needs to be Allison, because she's been so engrossed in this and has such a wealth of knowledge, which I've certainly learned a lot from. But I think I would strongly recommend that she be one of the 2. The other, any of the other of us or you all could be great additions, but I do understand the clarification. Mark will not be here next week. So it's kind of, and he'd love to be part of it, but that's going to be a little bit prohibitive, I think, because of it.
Unless they want to meet at Old Faithful.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it'd be a nice place to meet outside.
Right.
Beautiful scenery, but
So
You're not even interested in, you're not going to participate remotely because it's an actual vacation.
I'm going to
right?
be in a tent
Right,
in a
yeah.
place where they
So we're
have
not
no
excluding
internet.
you based on that,
Right,
just to
exactly.
clarify, okay.
I can attend
it's
it.
nothing to do with excluding because he's remote. But I think, I think that, I'm open to discussion, but I think either Matt or Sophie would be good choices to be the second persons on this little group.
I have a little bit of a same constraint than Mark, because I'll be in the middle of the Penobscot Bay.
There you go.
Oh, it's a last man standing. It's like the Donner Party. I see how this is all going to. What is the
Issue, what do you recommend? What do you
I
recommend?
just have a few questions.
and so what is the commitment that I'm just being?
Well, logically, there's going to be a number of meetings. I mean, it's not going to be every week, I don't think. But, the first priority will be to attack some of the questions that we need to answer about the ongoing activity to put flesh on the bone of the possible removal of that dam and the grant we have. Right. They understand that. But, of course, their interest is principally on whatever affects the harbor
seawall and
park and seawall, and then they were very clear about that. That's their focus, and that's a first good step. But I think, Audra, I would guess it'd be probably 3 or 4 meetings over the next 2 months. Something.
Okay. That seems prolonged.
Yeah, we can't.
Okay.
It can't go that long.
Then give us the input so we can help decide.
I would say that I'm hoping that this is like 2 meetings and we get some really good design input and have a conceptual design that we can all agree goes, is engineered.
So 2 meetings by the end of August?
Yes.
Right, and some of this will be working out I think, like the difference between sort of like a base level template and then option for things that could be added on that,
Options.
won't necessarily impact the, essentially for the grant, what we need to do is have like the major engineering done. That doesn't mean that, every, rose bush needs to be exactly as it would be. And, depending on what the level of comfort ends up being with the group, it might be that, different, we can be like, well, this is the option 3 recirculating waterfall option.
Right,
This
right.
is the bridge option. This is this option.
How many of those options are already spec'd out at this point? And
Not any of those, like, it's basically been, what's the broad feasibility? They've done borings, they've done, they know where the ledge is for the most part. They know all of
Yep.
that stuff. But before we get to the point where they're actually drawing, like construction-ready drawings, we need to,
And remember, their focus, as they've stated, is whatever options are, how does it affect Harbor Park? Okay, is there some, and there'll probably be differing impacts
that's why
on
that's what I
Harbor
was
Park.
asking, how far along are these
It depends
different-
on which option you saw. I think you reviewed the information session we had, so you kind of saw some of those baselines.
so the interaction, the main thing is going to be the interaction of the sluiceway
Yep.
with the seawall and that lower part, because the dam, most people don't realize, is not just that concrete part. That's really the spillway of the dam. The dam essentially keeps water from going down into Harbor Park, which is the natural course of the river. So figuring out, like, okay, how do we just step that seawall up, and there are a lot of things there. The stuff on the public landing side can be decided later if somebody wants to raise money to pump water over the edge of the.
Right.
And from your preliminary meetings with this, are you walking into a hostel room with the library board, or are you a receptive?
Well, I don't know. I don't feel. I never feel that way until it becomes that way. But by the way, Matt, if it comes to a point of disagreement, that also has to be documented.
I think next week I'll be driving by Little Bighorn, and I think I'll be safer than you will be.
I'm just checking.
It's not, I've presented to them twice.
I know.
And then they had a committee, they made a committee of 6 people to really look carefully at it. And no, they had 6 meetings is what they had. Not 6 people, I think a few more than
7.
Yeah. And so then they came up with a document of things that they sort of collectively agreed to.
Goals.
And, things like they want as little of Harbor Park as possible to be impacted, but they know some of it needs to be impacted, things like that. So I don't think it's going to be super
No, I don't think so.
hostile in the actual meetings.
I don't. I
It's
think.
just staying very clear that, because the discussion, there's like a tendency to drift back to, well, why did you pick this option? Why didn't you look at the other options? And just sticking to, we have a grant to do this defined thing. There's a lot of variation with this defined parameter of removing the dam and restoring the channel for different designs for how that's achieved. And that's what we need your input on.
Okay.
We're not going to debate why this is the one that we're designing right now. We just need your input on design.
Right. Because remember, our near-term deadline is November-ish for the completion of the design for the grant we've received.
Or the selection of the option.
No, well, yes, you're not going to design 3 options, or it's going to be one. Then the flu is not going to, there's not enough money in it to be having, if we call this option, removing the dam option B, whatever number it is, it's not going to have B1, B2, B3 before it. There'll be there could be some, as Allison states, about bridges and little pieces of it, but the fundamentals of it have to kind of be tied down. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to design it.
Right. I mean, that's the thing is there are within dam removal, there are many options for things. We can, everything from, granite bridges to boardwalks to the way the seawall is to do we want, kayak access and all of these things. So we definitely are going to be looking at options, but the main thing with the parameters of the grant is that it has to be something that reduces our flood risk from both inland flooding, river flooding, and sea level rise. So if it doesn't significantly reduce that risk, then it doesn't qualify for the grant funding. We can't use this to keep our risk level the same. And so
Just to automate the gate, for instance, to put the motors on the gate.
yeah, and the gate the thing is with the gate is that it's not big enough to even accomplish that. So, and it's the maintenance solution. So it's really all of this funding from the federal level and the state level. It's all geared at using like green infrastructure rather than gray infrastructure, nature-based solutions. So we can't use the money to come up with a man-made solution of cranking something open and shut more often and with greater efficiency. It has to be like, this is how we're going to let nature solve this problem for us in a more resilient way.
And just to go back a couple of steps, so this is a federal or state grant that's specific to?
So it's federal money that's passed through by the state, and the state comes up with the parameters based on what the bigger, broader federal money is there for.
Okay, and again, the deadline to submit or to have completion is November. What's our timetable? It's pretty
Yeah, that's
tight.
what I'm telling everyone.
No, stick
We
with your
need
tail.
to-
Stick tight, yeah,
so
because
we
if you
need
give us
to-
any room, it's going to be,
We need to have a design to send to give to our engineers so they can do the final engineering work on it.
Okay.
Done early September.
Good, I like
Right.
tight
Otherwise,
deadlines.
they can't spend a couple of months to develop design. It doesn't take weeks, it takes a couple of months to develop the design.
There might have to be a step two where we say we need to see a couple concept sketches
Yep.
like this. And
Yep.
so we need to, right now, I think a lot of it's going to be like showing 5 million pictures of different seawalls in different
Yeah,
places.
that's true.
And the library board saying, oh, we like this and we don't like this. And, and then finding out one of the things is like more of a living seawall.
Really, and it just shouldn't be like the normal meetings that we have. It really needs to be like a charrette style.
Yeah, right,
Right.
right.
That's what's going to work the
Agree with you.
best.
There's a design charrette.
Yeah.
So Mark would be perfect, but he's wrestling bear for some reason. He's decided to wrestle bear, yeah. So yes, I will happily. But Mark, do you want to step in after?
I'm not sure. I have some stuff I can share with you, so we should talk in the
Okay.
next couple of days before I leave.
Yeah, I want to, and
I
obviously.
won't be back until August 29th, so.
Should we go ahead and should we be putting this on the select board agenda to keep everybody updated? Is that good? I mean, I do
This is one
fear
of those-
getting to the end sometimes and not,
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those things that doesn't belong in select board reports, it belongs in updates. And that's absolutely, I think after the first meeting, you're going to know a lot of where things are
Right, so we'll
tracking.
come back and get
That's not a problem. I think, and I don't see this as a long-term thing, if it is with problems. But the deadline we have is short fused.
I'm okay.
It's not long fused. And
we're preparing to try to get something that people can vote on. So it's not like we're trying to push something through. It's,
No.
we're hoping to create something
Well, we
collectively that.
obviously have this, as we discussed, this option to remove the dam. We have this grant. We don't, then, again, the question keeps coming up about, to Audra's point, well, why do we, do the design only, well, to leave the dam in, we don't need detailed design. We know what that is. We know what that looks like. We know it's there, broken down a little bit, but it's there. This is a whole concept. It's not, there are many permutations to it. Some big, some small, but
The seawall's a big part of it. It's like
no
how
question,
much-
no question. And they've been very clear, and I understand that their focus is on the Harbor Park and seawall, trying to minimize the impact on that. And part of the learning curve for all that is, well, what's this bandwidth of impact? What does impact mean? Because usually what you find out is if you don't impact this, it doesn't work. That's what you usually find out.
And sea level, the big thing here is that,
Nothing sea
that the
level
reason
rise.
we were thinking, okay, well, we're going to try to do solve our dam problems without touching Harbor Park. But because it's just too difficult, and hopefully the seawall will just hang on a lot longer. But then we realized sea level rise is happening so fast that it doesn't make any sense to try to save something. It can't be saved in its current form. It either has to be raised significantly higher, which triggers 1 million permitting issues. You're going to have to, if you raise that thing, we got to have railings. We've got to have the whole thing taken apart because it's not structurally sound enough to just raise it as is. So there are a lot of things that would create that people don't maybe realize that they also wouldn't like, a whole railing system.
Right.
Really, we should, if in order to keep going with the dam the way it is, we can't be letting people on it all the time. That's, according to the insurance company, all of those things
Safety.
we've ignored for years. People love being able to walk along that. Let's try to create something that people can walk on without the insurance company saying that we're
You can't do
crazy.
it. Right. So again, that was proposed for August 16 or 17 at 1 o'clock?
August 16 or something.
Is that correct, Audrey?
Okay.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I
those-
think that we're still waiting for Nikki
Yes.
to get back to us.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think we were, as I recall, it was Monday or Tuesday, 16, 17, I believe are the dates, because we were pressing on time.
And Ms. C, will you send me an email once we decide on?
Yeah, yeah. In the meantime, if obviously you want to have a little chat, then fine. More you know, the better.
All I do is I pull kids off all the time off of that wall.
Okay.
Just little kids running all over.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
scary.
it's a mess.
Yeah, we're looking forward to updates as we go forward with this. That's it.
I do have an email from Anita.
Yeah.
One person's watching at least. Can the board clarify how folks can participate in designs? I think this probably is a good opportunity to say that there's a bunch of information on the website. If you go to the front page, homepage of the website, and then you scroll down to, in the news section, there's a river restoration updates. You'll see, a couple of basic concept designs there. And then you can look, read over that material and then watch any of the design input sessions that we held, 3 of them. And then I think this is the stage where we really are looking for people to say, like, I like this kind of seawall. I like, I want, birch trees or different,
Bridges.
So, right, this is the opportunity with bridges to solve that problem. So I think my tendency would be to say that emails to the whole select board are good, or
Whatever you decide, I
it's
mean.
always fine to send an email to the whole select board. And
Absolutely, but principally to the 2 of you right now is important, but there should be two of you and CCing the rest of us.
Right.
Is it one inbox?
We actually do have for this project, there was an email.
We do.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to say
do.
that because I don't know if it's active right now, but
Yeah,
When I would have to look.
Let's say the select board, but maybe let's look into having.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because it'll be easier if we have lots of.
yep.
you
Yep.
can put McGonagall Restoration in the subject line or something, but I think it's, that's.
Whatever you decide, it's fine, copy
Send
us.
emails to the whole select board is a great way to make sure that we all see it.
Are tuned
and-
in, we don't need to update those pieces.
Right, and
Yeah, I
we
agree.
can bring that to the.
Well, I think, in short, I think it's a good, we love meeting with the trustees, but a big meeting in hindsight would have been very awkward and not come up with an action, and it might have even come up with this action, but this is an action that has 2 select board members. We don't have to have a formal meeting. There's not 3 of us. They can format whatever they want because they have their own ideas about format and meetings, and whatever we all decide is fine. But yeah, constant updates. Cool.
And in the big picture, Bob, would it be a June ballot? Is that, are we looking, is anyone looking at that in that kind of?
I mean, practically speaking, as I've said to everybody, including the press recently,
Yeah.
by the time we get the flesh on the bone of this option, we're going to be, I'm guessing, deliberating into the first quarter of next year
Okay, so
about
looking-
what it may be the recommendation to, at the very soonest, go to a ballot in June.
And more likely in November 2022 or something in that.
In 2022, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, we're not going to make November, given what I said about, we have September 7th to get our last items in. So if we stay with the cycle of election, the soonest could be next June, which means we would have to have something ready to go to ballot at end of March.
End of March.
Or early April. Might be the first week in April.
I think it's usually the first week of April.
I think it's the first week of April, yeah.
One of the things we'll want to talk about also is whether, what makes sense in terms of order of operations with grant funding. I think
Yep.
a lot of,
Yep.
for a lot of people, the question is going to be, who's paying for it?
Yep.
And so talking with like funding agencies about whether it makes sense to go through the grant application first, and then we can bring something that's, really just a request for $20,000 in matching funds in order to, so we can have the whole thing spelled out for people and an approved
Yeah,
grant.
I mean, that's what I would recommend, that after we have this design done, we have cost estimates.
Yes.
That's when we can go to funding partners and
Yes.
say, this is our project, what can we reasonably expect to be
Yep.
funded by you? What's the match requirement?
Right.
And once we have that teed up, that gives us a good opportunity to go to voters and say, this is the town's contribution, do you support it or not?
Again, we'll have to look at the thing in the spring, not even spring, late winter of next year, the flesh on the bone of the options that we may contemplate. And then each one has to have what you just defined.
Oh, well, we're not going to be applying for like multiple grants possibly.
No, I
We
didn't.
can't- 'cause we can't put out.
No, I wasn't saying that. I was just saying that, no, I understand that.
But it might be like, well, the voters wanted a statue, but NOAA doesn't want to pay for that. So
right.
if the voters want to pay $85,000, they can have their statue. But is that the kind of stuff you're saying, or?
No, I'm just saying,
Options?
well, no, we know, we kind of know they're the key options with respect to that dam. Keep it, remove it, cut it in half, whatever the principal options are. We're putting the flesh on the bone of this option with this grant. And the board has to make a decision what to send to the voters in June.
Or whenever it goes to.
Or whenever it goes to ballot, yeah. I mean, it could get delayed, there's always that possibility. Or, I mean, there's also the possibility of special town meeting, I suppose, but depending on how urgent we see it, that's another option that we can have. But right now, it looks like decision in end of March, to get it to ballot, something to ballot in June.
But it's probably going to be most dependent on the grant cycles, I would say, because.
I understand, yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, I understand. No, you're right. But I think this is a good opportunity to work with the library trustees, at least a limited group of them, and see if we can continue the objective to work more proactively and better with the library trustees. Thank you, Matt, for doing it. I'm sure you'll be great at it. And now, you're right. You bring the dog.
Yeah, bring the dog. That helps
It always
sometimes.
does.
To our last item, we have reports. Marco.
Reports. Oh, I have reports.
Yeah.
Hold on, I have to pull it up again. It keeps going away. Two things to talk about. First, the Opera House, because Allison loves it when I talk about the Opera House. They had a first Summer Sounds concert. They had a free concert at the Snow Bowl this weekend at 2 o'clock. They had between 150, 200 people, very positive response from attendees and performers. So there will be a second one on, I believe, August 22nd. I think that's what it is. And just a lot of people put in a lot of work, a lot of volunteers showed up to help, but a great afternoon was had by all.
It's great.
Yeah, so really good. And that brings me to another note about what Dave Morrison, who's the director, has been doing. We had some really good news as soon as it became available for application last October, November. Dave applied for a shuttered venue operators grant from the government as part of the COVID funds. And we received $62,509 from the government for being a shuttered operation, which he will use the grant. It's based on a percentage of lost revenue for the past year.
Sure.
He's going to use the grant to reimburse the town and community arts funds, to improve the live stream gear and do some extra outreach advertising. As he says, there's a fairly complex system of record keeping and reporting, so he'll keep us posted. But one of the things that during all of COVID, the Opera House kept busy virtually every Friday night over the last year and a half. They've had an artist in the Opera House, and they developed live streaming, which has been very successful, over I think 10,000 views for people every Friday night. And then as we've been able to open up again, they've been having people seated in the audience as well as doing the free live stream. And I know last Friday night's concert sold out. One of our first big concerts for Labor Day weekend will be Tom Rush, the folk singer, will be here for Windjammer weekend. And so looking forward to that. So it's been very successful. But the one thing I wanted to say, the Community Arts Fund paid on all the artists that came for the last year and a half have all been from Maine. And the Community Arts Fund, which was based on donations, paid Maine artists over $10,000 to perform soundcheck performances. And Dave's quote, "I'm not aware of any other small theater in the state that was able to do this, and it was completely community driven," which is just wonderful. So it's been just a great time. And then I had one question for Audra, and I have to get to that. Hold on. And that's about EMS. Let's see if I can find it here. We had an email from Chris Farley, our police chief, fire chief, excuse me, about conversation about pursuing an EMS first responder program. And there are a bunch of people that took EMS classes, both fire and police personnel and some other town individuals. One of our people, Matt Heath, has applied to and is accepted and enrolled in a paramedic program. So we're going to have some very accomplished people. And Chris was looking to see how we're going to move ahead with the first responder program. And I wanted to, something we need to have a discussion about at some point.
Yes, we do.
Okay, cool.
And
Mark, anything else?
that will do it for me.
Ms. Allison?
All right. Promised you an oil spill story.
Yeah.
Connected to action item, select board priority, stormwater management as approved in the budget.
That's a perfect segue.
We've been mapping out where the water goes. And I actually would like to request an agenda item in the future just to show the select board some of the GIS stuff that we've been doing and what you can find on the website.
Update on that?
Yeah. And some of the things that we, could focus on in the future or not. But sometimes contaminants end up in the river, and tracking where they came from is difficult. DEP was called about a week ago because a resident noticed an oil slick in the river. Whoops. Uh-oh.
That's a truck.
That is a DEP truck. This is a catch basin.
Yep.
Whoop.
Yep.
And this is home heating fuel in the catch basin. They were able to locate, so this was the source of the oil that was in the river. The whole catch basin filled up. It smelled terrible. Luckily, a resident had called and complained about that, and Public Works was able to sort of match that up with the complaint about stuff being in the river.
I see.
But
there was number 2 oil getting into a catch basin. They didn't know from where?
Yes,
Okay.
It appears so. So that was from a home, heating fuel, a tank that, a property that had recently been purchased. It was leaking for unknown reasons. A lot of people have these old tanks in their basement. I know I do. And the oil company said, whoa, you probably need to have that replaced. And they put pads down for me to monitor until I could do that. Mine isn't leaking yet, but it's,
So was the leak a one-time 250 gallons?
It is unknown exactly how much spilled. It seems like it may have been a slow leak for a long time. And then, but when we do know that the oil company had been there, stopped a leak, but then it appears didn't get a chance to report it to the DEP. And then we got a bunch of rain, and it flushed it down. So any, one of those central messages from DEP is any amount of oil spilled is a reportable
Yep.
thing, and
Yep.
you can avoid all penalties by reporting that within 2 hours. You will not get in trouble. If you report it, they will come out, they will help you solve the problem. You'll not get in any trouble if you can report that within 2 hours. So this is where, a lot of people just don't realize this is the river, and this
Yeah.
is a little stream that goes from
Yeah.
Mechanic Street down to the river.
Yep.
And this is looking from the pipe that goes from the catch basin
Yep.
across Mechanic Street, and then dumps into this little stream here, which outlets into the river. And by the time it gets, it was really discouraging, because by the time it gets there, the options for cleaning it up are really like these pads, basically. And-
Absorption pads.
Yeah, and that is a slow process. It was, I saw frogs covered in oil, and to see it all coming from the catch basin and from this house, it was like, oh my gosh, this isn't the kind of thing that should be happening in
Anywhere.
Camden. And so you
Anywhere.
would think we should be able to stop this. What was good is that we do have a lot of the system mapped out now. So we're able to say, okay, we know it can only be coming from these places, from these houses. Now, when we become aware that there's a storm drain, a basement drain, for instance, that drains directly into the catch basins, which is what we want people to do. We don't want their basement drains to be hooked up to the sewer system. We've been working really hard on getting it out of the sewer system, because sewer system doesn't have the capacity to remove the oil either, and it just gums up the system. But now we do also have a lot going directly to the storm drains, which creates a different set of problems. So we've been adding all of those now as we find them into this database, which is all updated in real time and public.
This leak, has the leak been mitigated? 1, 2, has the intrusion into the lake been mitigated
To
today?
the river. It's going to be basically on a long-term monitoring plan. We've been checking it to see if any more gets in there, because it wasn't like a direct thing. There was a dirt floor in the basement, and then it kind of infiltrated through a French drain possibly, and it looks like maybe there had been overfills on the tank for years and years. So they're basically trying to figure out now if it's going to, they have to dig things up. I was pretty upset because it's very unregulated, this whole thing. And so I think just, encouraging residents, if you have a question about, if you're not sure where a pipe goes, if you're not sure about your tank, calling the town or DEP and saying, can you come out and inspect my tank? There's a lot of funding available for tank replacements. For people that can't afford tank replacements, the town could also help with that. And then we're also, both the sewer department and public works can always inspect to see where,
But
pipes go.
You can call your oil supplier, they do that too.
Yeah, your oil company.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so there was, unfortunate, that was probably a pretty weak part of this whole,
I
weak
see,
link
I see.
here,
I
in this
expect that.
case.
Yeah, I expect that, but usually, that's another source, and they can tell you whether or not you have a deteriorating wall in your oil tank or not. They should know
Right, yeah,
that.
they should definitely do that. But if you suspect a leak,
Yep.
people should know
Yep.
that you're not going to get in trouble if you report
no,
it, and they
right.
will help, they have a fund to help you clean it up.
Right,
And,
right. Right, we're not trying to shoot anybody, we're trying to just solve the problem.
but, yeah, so that'll be,
Interesting.
yeah, so that's,
Thank you,
that's
Allison.
it.
That's a good relationship to priority items. I'm so impressed.
I can't wait to play the game of trying to link everything that I
actually, you
bring
know
up tangentially to the.
You have 42 items on a priorities list. That's not really a challenge.
47.
Right. Oh, yeah, it can all be related. This was
Sophie.
on Mechanic Street.
Ms. Romana,
So I attended the first meeting of the task force on parking. A couple, last week.
You might need to
Was it
put your
Sunday?
microphone closer. I don't know.
Week before.
Sorry. Yeah, I've attended the first meeting of the task force on parking was July 30th, I think.
Yes.
And there was a good group of people, about 12 people with representation from businesses, from the Chamber of Commerce, and we basically had a very open discussion with the consultant that we hired to help us understand the issues along parking, managing the flow, managing parking spaces, managing money, trying to understand the value of the parking spaces, and of course, as in all projects like this, managing competing priorities for parking space. So it was a really good discussion, I think, Audra, on what everybody wants, like a little bit of a Christmas list that we're going to parse through, because of course we won't be able to put everything, address all those preferences. But I thought we had a good group of people, open conversation, a very good process moving forward with John at the helm. And really interesting topics and possibilities for the town to capitalize on parking spaces and make it livable for everyone. So to be continued.
And to be updated frequently.
My second update, I just want to give a shout out to everybody who participated in the Camden Classic and in the race. We've had this year a parade that was absolutely incredible. Lots of people on the docks applauding, listening, participating. So all the organizations, companies who put the word out and made sure that we had a really good celebration of the harbor, just big kudos, because it was fantastic.
I would agree. That was going to be in my report.
Oh, I'm just curious, was that was that an action item that we all?
The harbor committee.
Yeah.
I think we have we prioritized the harbor committee?
I see how this is going to go for the next 3 years.
Sorry,
it's going to be fantastic.
This is how you morph that one, Alice. It's very simple.
Have you guys met? Do you guys know each other?
Financial vibrancy is one of the things that's on our priority list.
There
And
you
if
go.
our harbor is not alive and vibrant, yeah, it is. Financial, well, called security, stability of our town is on the priority list, and includes budgeting and blah, blah, blah. But it also includes making sure the town is financially vibrant. This was an event that was really, it was over 100 boats came in from various places of unbelievable vintage, and the parade was quite impressive. Lots of cannon fire. But for me, it was reminiscent of events of equal or parallel intensity and value as Newport, Rhode Island.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And
Anyway.
the party was fun, and they stopped it on time. I mean, it was.
The Lyman Morse did a good job of scheduling the whole
It
thing.
was
They
really
really
great.
did. Mr. Siegel.
We'll try and touch on all 47.
Thank you.
Just to make sure that I don't miss anything.
Good for you.
Because Audra, we spend so much time together all week, I think I can probably. So first up, something called an interlocal agreement that has been part of the
Coalition.
Development Corporation in terms of establishing a regional municipal utility.
Mm-hmm.
And as of last night, Rockland City Council has approved, so they will be sending a representative.
Great.
As of 2 weeks ago, Thomaston is also
Right.
on board. So now we are starting to form a regional municipal utility.
So we have four.
We got four. We got the core four. And that allows us not just the legal entity, but also a certain amount of, in the state level and also in terms of recognition of the state on the federal level.
Right.
So again, this is a national situation. We happen to be at the forefront of it, so we take a lot of flack.
Right.
But again, that situation with Rockland signing on last night, unanimous vote, good PR, really bodes well for this type of model, not just in the state, but also nationally. Second, grant applications, just to keep you up to date. We are, as we mentioned earlier, I'm working with Audra, and we are looking at the Knox County situation in terms of ARPA. So again, I won't go over that too much, except to say that it is in process right now. Camden is an active participant in this particular grant process. Furthermore, MCED, trying to get on all 47. So what we're trying to do is establish relationships which have been either frayed or non-existent in the past. The one that comes to mind was Knox County. We're doing our best to olive branch, a lot of olive branch. So hopefully the grant application will be a process to heal wounds, to open, don't give me that look, Bob, to open lines of communication with the county. We're doing our best. Again, this is a public forum, so I will be very, but also MCED has been fabulous in terms of wanting to team with us statewide and in terms of a national application for the Economic Development Administration, something called an EAA grant.
DA.
Well, EDA for an EAA.
Oh, right.
See, I mean, come on, you and I have been practicing my lines. I mean, hold on, gosh, you know, if I'm going to throw acronyms, you've been my coach for like the last 6 months, so it's, I know, no.
The student is surpassing the teacher.
It's an EDA, EAA, and so, but put the cheeky aside, it's actually an opportunity for us to really team with MCED in a very positive, so far the relationship has been, it's far surpassed what I thought it would be, and the opportunities for funding within the region. Again, what we're trying to do is really build a regional situation, not just Camden or not just Rockport, but having our towns or municipalities come together, as I mentioned at the beginning, with this interlocal agreement to really take on a leadership position in the state. Superb. And that's what we're doing. And then the last but not least, the most fun in terms of item number 47, the French conference room. So I just want to, speaking of shout outs, Bruce is right back there. Hello, Bruce. Bruce and Mark, I know, that's what you, Kona's been helpful too, but Bruce and Juniper have been great in terms of.
Yeah, you've done a great
moving
job
forward.
there, Matt, you really
So in the
have.
next couple of days, we'll have, for just a heads up, we'll have price lists and all those kind of things. Just didn't want to do it tonight, so we'll be
No,
ready.
that's great. No, you're doing a great job, and it's really exciting, frankly, because we don't know what's going to happen in the next weeks with terms, we just don't know, and there's bound to be some restrictions and blah, blah, blah. So I think we'll be
Some of us just want to do it
prepared.
anyway, but.
Well, we'll be on time and on budget.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about the budget. It's more important, the priority, because Audra can always find money, not, but on to.
Can I just add on to Matt's real quick, just
Yeah, sure,
really, that it will come as a big surprise to everybody that it went so well in the one meeting that I was in, and I was so impressed with Matt and
Yep.
what he brought to the understanding, that I no longer feel the need to be involved, which
Record that.
really says something. I got to show Matt what we already do that works, what we didn't want to be lost. He was like, oh, great, and blah, 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 and just has so much knowledge and
Yeah,
did
yeah.
such a good job listening, and that it feels really great to just be like, oh, somebody knows more than I do and understands what I said, and this is wonderful. It's really
Yeah,
wonderful to have you.
it's,
Thank you. And
that's-
Juniper is great too, and Bruce, and you guys are
No,
a
it's
great
been
team.
a great team. I would underscore what you just said, and I'm not going to repeat it, but you're absolutely right. To Ms. Audra for facility, you don't have facility for town manager reports.
Bit of facility stuff in my
I
update.
knew that. That's what I was thinking in advance of you.
I thought I'd, while everybody, the update that Matt gave on MCED and the
Yep.
EDA and EAA
Yep.
stuff is all fresh in your mind.
So what is EDA and EAA?
Refer back to the teacher over there.
Yeah, well, so Economic Development Administration, and they're sort of they have the largest grants available to communities that want to do economic development projects. And the EAA grant is really pretty unique and a great opportunity. So typically these grants, it's a 50 non-federal, 50 federal match.
Oh,
And really, I had my eye on the redevelopment of the public landing eventually for an EDA grant. But this is just a tremendous opportunity for broadband in that
Oh.
it's a 2080 non-federal, federal match. It's really an incredible opportunity, and they love funding broadband projects because of the unquestionable economic benefit they bring to communities.
And specifically nonprofit.
order
So
of magnitude dollars?
$5 million is the max.
How much?
5 million is they fund between 500,000 and 5 million in this round.
Okay.
So again,
it's-
we're calling it a phase one.
No, I understand.
I would say we need to be ready to help Midcoast Internet Development Corporation
Yep.
make sure they have their 20% match.
Okay.
So just wanted to,
Heads
put
up.
that out there.
Heads up.
yes. So everybody's probably noticed that the side of, this is my facility update, Bob, that the side of this building on, the parking lot that you enter on Washington Street for this building has been sort of ripped up. And so I just wanted to give a bit of an update on that. We are really fortunate to have some great people in our Public Works Department.
You
that
think?
Just one, the work that they did to sort of fix some of the water intrusion issues that we've been having in the basement by excavating sort of around the perimeter here and then through the parking lot. It's going to make a big, huge difference. And, you know, some of the really expensive investments that we were talking about with Siemens, I think are not necessarily, we're going to be able to mitigate a lot of the water issues through the work that they did, so.
And they need to do, there's still more to go.
Rerouting the
Yes.
gutters, and that's all in the system now too, in the
Yes.
logged, in the map and everything. You can look at pictures of
Yeah,
it.
Washington Street and.
Everything's
and
tied in.
The corner up front still needs the same thing, but they've done a big L out here.
Yes.
And that's going to go a long way to what you just said.
Right, so it looks like a kind of small, funny thing, but it's
No, it's not.
significant for this
No,
building.
you're talking about X hundreds of thousands of dollars of stuff in the basement to eliminate the water problem, which is slowly causing this building to rot out because of the moisture going up into our walls and up to our roof.
Yes, so I just want to give a big thanks to Dave St. Laurent and Roger and Ben.
Absolutely.
Who did that project and did a great
Absolutely.
job, and it's going to save us a lot of money, and it's going to protect this building that we all
Great.
value so much. So that's my facility update. So the Washington Street sidewalk, the first third of the part that we're reconstructing, starting at Alden Street, has started today.
I noticed.
They made wonderful progress. Thank you, everybody, for your patience with the traffic control that we've had to put in place. They're really kind of moving along at a really good clip. They've got a lot sort of prepped in just their first day of working on that. So I'm pretty confident
They
that,
did quite a bit today.
absolutely, yeah. We've got, you know, again, really good team at Public Works that are able to do things that, you know, we just haven't been able to do for a,
Well, we need to also underscore the amount of money that it will cost to do it with them doing it is substantially less than contracting it out.
so much less. Yeah, I can't even emphasize the difference in being able to do some of these things in-house versus contracting them out.
It's
So
huge.
it's going to be a big improvement, and it's going to be really great because we'll be able to say that we kind of kept up our end of the bargain with, you know, investing in our current, you know, network of sidewalks, and not just spending money on building new sidewalks, which leads me to my next update. We had a pre-construction meeting with MDOT for the 105 from Matthew John to Shirttail sidewalk and the Route 1 South Quarry Hill to Maritime Farm sidewalk. And that was a good meeting. You know, there were lessons learned through the downtown drainage and sidewalk project that is not quite 100% finished.
Right.
That MDOT was pretty humble about, and,
Yep.
and I think that, you know, we're going to be able to build on that and work together really well and make sure that those two projects are pretty successful. I think that if there is any construction at all, it's probably going to be drainage related on the 105 sidewalk. Very unlikely that the actual sidewalk itself will be constructed this season. So I think going into, you know, the spring is when 105 will actually be constructed, and they'll start on Route 1 South.
In the spring of '22.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that's highly likely.
Good.
Allison?
Are there opportunities for incorporating more street trees?
As we go along, I think that there definitely will be, and a lot of them won't necessarily be in the right-of-way, but it'll be up against the right-of-way. I think, you know, as we go, asking property owners if they would like to be part of the street tree program is something that we'll have an opportunity to do.
Great.
Because I mean, you all know, it's a funky right-of-way. That's why we
It
have
is,
to do
it's
the.
really strange up there.
Yeah.
Well, for which one?
Up
The closer you get to Shirt Tail, the more narrow that
Right-of-way gets.
site of the right-of-way gets.
Oh, yeah, I mean, on that side, but there's, on the other side, there's some opportunities probably to do stuff
Yes.
in the right-of-way, and then on Route 1.
Yeah, the
as
closer
well.
you are to town.
It just, last time we didn't end up, we have all these things in our downtown master plan that say, this is where street trees should go, and we failed on that with the downtown drainage project, because it was like, I don't think we really know why exactly, because it was seen as an obstacle to plowing, or it was, and then we were like, well, we'll talk about that later. So if we could make sure we, I don't know, get it in there
Yeah.
at some point. We probably have enough, we have funding for it.
Oh, yeah, that won't be
we
the
do.
issue. It'll be more of
Money's,
just,
money's not the problem, it's just, like you said, the right of way and cooperation of residents, which you'll probably get.
yeah, and I think a lot of people, like if, they don't know to ask for
Right.
trees, so I think
Right.
as we're going along.
Right.
Because we're going to be communicating with people doing a project right outside their house, so
Sounds great.
we'll try to let them know of those opportunities as much as possible.
Why not?
Tomorrow, myself, Dave Bolstrich, and Dave St. Laurent will be having a meeting with the MDOT Bridge Program group about the Route 1 bridge and sort of like their current status of what they're doing with that. So I will keep you all updated as to what the outcomes are of that meeting and where it looks like they're going in terms of what they're doing and when they're planning on doing it.
Thank you. That'll be interesting.
And the, yeah, a lot of concerns and making sure they've seen all the
Yep.
flood stuff,
Yep.
and the,
Yep,
Yes.
okay.
And I need to get you all to give me some ideas on when and how you'd like to meet with the Lincolnville Select Board. So they asked years ago to meet about the
All right,
lake dams, and they would still like to have that
okay.
meeting.
we did try, I think,
We
just to
did.
not make it sound like they asked years ago and we've been ignoring them, we
I mean, this has all been, yeah,
had a
back
meeting
and forth.
scheduled and then it couldn't
Yeah,
happen
right.
because of a snowstorm or something.
Yeah,
and
we
then-
had something got in the way, I forget what it
And then we
was.
reached out to them and.
Yeah, exactly, so,
And
okay.
everyone forgot when
Okay,
2020
pro-
happened.
Well, we probably should schedule it when Mark gets
So
back.
we did with everything else.
But anyway, okay, I wrote it down. Anything else, Audra?
That's all I have.
Oh, goody. That was fun. Mark,
Bob.
what?
What did you give her?
Oh, no, I was going to talk about Lyman Morse, but Sophie stole the thunder. I thought that was a great event, but it was, just because it was exciting. But, no, I think you've covered them all for me.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this evening as Select Board. And there goes the cap.
The cap's coming on, and there's no wastewater, we're not going into any.
Why are you mentioning it?
That's a great
He
point.
missed being a wastewater commissioner tonight.
Do I have a second? You absolutely love the second.
There's the mic on, I would like to second
But
that.
let's have some discussion about it.
Really good for that, but I'll.
Yeah. Anyway, all those in favor? 5. Thank you, Bruce.
Very much for watching us.
Thank you, everybody.